I know, I've got these intros down here, so like, very, very,
This guy, ever tried so good.
Have you got Mevo for it? Yeah.
How are you? This weekend?
Excited? I'm like ready to There's some Photoshop pictures of these slides that I'm so excited. There's one that Madison would have like some surprise. I don't know these things. All right. I'm just showing you real quick. So I'm just going to enter here. He's got to set up something in right? So what it'll look like is this screen will be that off. Right? So we're bringing he's having his notes, so we'll just yep, and so in case I'll say this. Got it. All you need to do is pass that up. There's a slide there. Then
right. We're going to get started here in the next 3 minutes. So if everyone can start grabbing their seat, that would be fantastic. We have 4 speakers and 1 interview this afternoon. And there's going to be lots of great stuff. Welcome everyone to Simply SaaS Forum number 2. We had our first one 2 months ago, and it was a lot of fun. I was just talking with Katie Christian of Sales Loft, and she said how forward she was looking to this, because it's just going to be a lot of fun, right? It's going to be very relaxed environment, very conversational, and we're excited about hosting the Simply SaaS Forum today. Simply SaaS is all about content and community. We want to serve entrepreneurs and provide an open environment where people can learn best practices from folks who are in the trenches, building and executing all day, every day on building great SaaS businesses. So we have 4 speakers today, and then a fantastic interview, and I would like to start and introduce Pete. Pete is the VP of Sales for Rigor. Pete, let's give him a quick round of applause. But he doesn't get off that easy, because we do have his bio. This bio was all of the bios got a nice quick little remix. So this is the second time I've had the honor of introducing Pete this year. The first time was on his way up to accept the Sales Leader Award for the Technology Association of Georgia Growth Stage, which was quite the evening that night at the Buckhead Club. Pete's the VP of Sales at Rigor, a leading provider of digital experience lifecycle management solutions. As a growth mindset leader with 23 years of experience driving new revenue for enterprise software companies, he loves building and developing high-performing teams and seeing the Rigor team and culture. That is quite true. Today, Pete's responsibilities include accelerating Rigor's growth and sales velocity across all addressable markets globally. Pete is still getting used to the t-shirt and jeans, blue jeans lifestyle, which is much different from his ties, button-downs, and Dockers days at HP Enterprise, Landesk, and Computer Associates. Let's welcome Pete to the stage. Pete, all you.
Thank you. You guys hear me okay? Great. Well, thank you. It's an honor to be here. Really appreciate the Tech Village just putting this together, right? Great opportunity to get like-minded folks together across all different disciplines to talk all about how we grow and scale our companies for the long term. So as they mentioned, I'm with Rigor. We're actually headquartered here in the village up on the 3rd floor. About 40 people in our company right now between all the respective teams. Founded actually back in 2010 by Craig Hyde, our CEO. And just real quickly, on our background, we kind of specialize in the digital experience arena. So in a nutshell, as you know, when you hit a website, if it's running slowly, like more than a second or 2 to get the content you're looking for, you're gone, right? You're going to go buy whatever it is you're looking for elsewhere. And where we focus is essentially on that front end and helping clients identify where they may be having a problem so that they can take corrective action and ensure a fast and reliable experience for their end users. So if you are a Home Depot or a Cars.com or a CNN, we kind of play a role in their environments and helping ensure that whatever they're delivering content-wise to their end users is something that we help ensure. And it's really for the obvious reasons, right? Obviously, web experience is bad, lost revenue, no conversions, all kinds of problems associated with that. So, in terms of our culture and what we're all about here, these are kind of our core values, and those really guide. They're our guiding principles for how we operate, how we hire, and everything we want to do about scaling. Certainly, very much around being genuine, owning our work, improving every day, just to name a few things. But they certainly guide what we do, and we take that very seriously. Much credit to our COO, Catherine O'Day, who kind of keeps that culture in place, certainly teaching me a lot about the culture of the earlier stage companies, which you don't necessarily always find up in large enterprise. So, if I think about kind of the early days at Rigor, because I've actually been there since last January. So before me, there was a team of folks who were very much operating with the don't be afraid of anyone, right? That they could go out and take on the world, compete with the largest enterprise companies, onboarding, the new logos, right? It started with the small companies at the time, Control Freak and at Georgia Tech, Commissions Inc., which you'll hear today, as Matt is one of the panel speakers as well. And then as they went on, it kind of landed some of the larger logos, like a Weather Channel, and then on into a Home Depot at that time. And I think it was just through pure brute force and grit and hunger and desire to make a difference and compete that really got them where they wanted to go. And then, right about December of 16, they had kind of crossed over that $3 million mark in ARR. And I give much credit to my predecessor and the team, because what they did to get to that point, not really my skill set. So I was kind of for a different phase to help them move beyond that. But when I talked with our CEO, actually when I came on board, I was amazed with the logos that they had onboarded throughout that time, which was just great to see. As they evolved. So as we kind of looked at, okay, we've hit this mark and we want to scale, and we kind of planted a flag of saying, let's go to $20 million, right? How do we get to 20 million ARR? How fast can we do that? And what do we need to go do that? We had to do some things. We had to ensure we were very much aligned on our core values. We wanted to make sure that we were investing in client success to ensure that we didn't have churn occurring. Obviously, a very, very bad thing. Keep sales VPs up at night. Sell new bookings, and if there's churn, you feel like I'm like the mouse on the wheel and we're not getting anywhere. So we knew that, and then we certainly had to further, unify the go-to-market team, getting everybody under one umbrella and all kind of focusing on here's how we're going to go forward together. So with that, it kind of really began with the mindset, right? And I don't know, how many of you have actually read Carol Dweck's book called Mindset? Good. It's a great read. I would encourage many of you to take a look at that, especially in the early stage companies that you're trying to scale. There's all kinds of professional and personal applications there, but the reality is it's a couple of core principles there. The becoming is better than being really, I think, sums it up best. But it talks quite a bit about fixed mindsets and growth mindsets. You tend to find the fixed ones probably in a lot of the larger enterprise companies. They think that they've got it all figured out, and they kind of lose some of that hunger and passion. Whereas the growth mindset is quite the opposite. And the reality is the world's top business leaders, top athletes, they all kind of share that trait of having a growth mindset. And what does that mean? It's having a passion and desire to get things done. It's really the willingness to improve every day. They kind of get rid of the limiting thoughts and feel like they can always improve every day and get better. And they're open and they solicit feedback always on how do I improve each and every day, which I think is very core and fundamental to the only way you can continue to grow along the way. So that's kind of a core part of even our hiring profile overall. And when I think about a growth-focused team, right? There's some of the members of our SDR and sales team, and we want to always keep going up and to the right? Month over month and quarter over quarter, year over year, so that we can continue to grow. And there's some common traits there that I think when I look at building a team, if you want to have a highly successful sales team, things that are just core fundamentals to what you need. Certainly one is having that sense of urgency, right? Even though we're an early stage company, there's no reason that we can't operate with the same discipline that a large enterprise company has that's well-trained, well-funded, tons of resources, knowing that we can go out and really move the ball forward today. Because that's how we operate. It's not what can we do next week or at the end of the month or the end of the quarter, but rather, hey, what can we do today to move the needle in the business to get going in the right direction? I think additionally really is that willingness to just commit to excellence. each and every day, there's a new challenge, right, that we have to overcome. And I think those that show up with that make a difference attitude on saying, hey, each and every day, I'm not here just to draw a paycheck. You know, if you're in sales, we go for accelerators, right? Hitting our quota, our bookings target, that's kind of the check in the box, and we want to try to move beyond that. Kind of our sales kickoff theme for this year was hashtag jump the line, right? We know what our bookings plan is, and at the end of the quarter, we want to make sure we jump the line to get over the plan so that we show growth even beyond, you know, targets that we set out for ourselves. Also, you know, for us, create an environment at Rigor where, you know, it's okay to make mistakes. Let's just try not to repeat them. Let's learn from them, but we want people to take risks. We're in certainly a fierce environment. You know, in our space specifically, there's probably 7 to 10 vendors we see all the time that we compete with. So we kind of have to always stay ahead of the curve on figuring out what are they doing, what are they messaging, how do we differentiate, what are the gaps that we can provide to create our unique value versus someone else. And so we focus a lot on that. And then, you know, when I think about, you know, hey, why are those types of traits important, right, when you're hiring? You know, one, think about the growth aspirations we've set out for ourselves. That's just kind of fundamental. You have to have a team that operates like that. And not just sales, but our sales team, our SDR team, our alliances team, or, you know, just across the entire company is kind of the DNA, right, that we try to instill across the board. And then obviously with scaling, we have a good process in place, right? Because, you know, if you want to scale and you do so without process, it'll destroy you down the road. So we wanted to make it, you know, clear and repeatable for everyone, and then use it as something that we can actually measure against. So we know, are we doing the right things? Where do we need to adjust? What worked? What did not work? And then continue to adapt. And we certainly needed to create more predictability around our pipeline. And I'll talk further about kind of what we've done in that area specifically. Because, you know, for a VP of sales, you know, the worst thing is, hey, if it gets to the end of a quarter, you've closed it all out, you wake up day one of the next quarter and you're figuring out, what are we going to go do this quarter? What the bookings target? Maybe not so sure. And, you know, we need predictability, our CEO needs predictability, our finance director needs predictability. So we try to create an environment where we can actually kind of look out and forecast, what are we going to do 1 quarter down the road, 2 quarters down the road, based upon the pipeline that we created in quarter, the trailing 90 days. So we'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. And then certainly, you know, the go-to-market playbook, right? That's core and critical to what we do. I mean, I think ours right now is upwards of probably 75 pages long, right? But it's these core things on why we exist, our customer profile, making sure that you know, everybody understands the process from pricing and sales ops and competitive, all those core things that really are necessary to scaling. And that's important because as a new hire comes in, we want to make sure that we can say, hey, start here. This is everything packaged up in one spot for you versus, you know, trying to check Google Drive and search for things that have been created over the last 5 years, and who knows where they are and if they're up to date. So we put a lot of energy on each department owning their piece of the pie to ensure that that's always up to date and accurate. So I think you know, putting that in place will help scale, because now, you know, when we hire a new person, maybe a couple weeks before they start, we ship that over to them so they could start learning and ramping even before they walk in the door. You know, kind of come in a little bit more aware than day one, for example. So those are pretty important things for us as well. And then, you know, I talked about the pipeline. How many have heard the term lead velocity rate? If you followed Jay, yeah, I know a lot of Rigor folks have, but who follows Jason Lemkin, right? So go follow Jason Lemkin, right? He kind of does SaaSter on the West Coast. Big SaaS conference. I think each year there's upwards of 10, 12,000 people that attend. And he talks about the most important metric for SaaS companies is their lead velocity rate. And this was all about forward-looking predictability. He said, if you want to double the size of your company year over year, then you better be doubling your lead rate. Literally growing your lead rate 8% month over month for the course of the year. Because he said, at the end of the day, your sales results is just a it's a trailing factor, right? You can't really influence that much your in-quarter bookings, right? How you finish. You know, if you want predictability of how you're going to do next quarter, or maybe the quarter after that, look how much pipeline you created in quarter, right? So for us, we said, okay, we looked at our average deal cycles, we looked at our conversion rates, we looked at our actual, annual contract value on most of our deals, and we basically said, okay, how much top of funnel has to be created this quarter, this month, month over month, so that, if we close, give or take 20% of that, or a third of our qualified pipe down the road, where are we going to finish? So that we could start giving optics 3-4 months on, hey, where are the numbers going to be? So we look at that. We created Salesforce dashboards around that. How much new logo pipe did we create? How much expansion pipe did we create? And Jason kind of authored an article on this. So if you just Google his name and lead velocity rate, you'll find it. And it's really a good read, and probably one of the most valuable pieces of info that a sales VP can leverage to ensure. Because for us, we had to make sure that we had the entire team focused and aligned around our pipeline. So we essentially put quota targets in place across every department for creating pipeline. So the SDR team, the ISRs, the AEs, the alliances, the marketing group, even client success. And we said, hey, we're all part of our future, so let's take ownership on creating the pipeline month over month. So then we can literally say, okay, say you're going after a $4 million a year new bookings target, for example. Well, you probably have to say, we need to create $16 million in pipe this year. And then you start backing into how much has to be created every single month for us to even have a shot at achieving that goal. And then, with my leadership team, we sit down and we say, how are we doing? What did we create? And then, certainly, you can see sometimes the panic in our eyes, like we didn't create enough last month. Let's go out and get after it. But I think keeping this in front and center of everybody and getting an entire go-to-market team aligned around that will help create more predictability as we go forward down the road in our pipe. And then when I think about kind of the foundation, right, for sales acceleration, kind of once you've got those core things in place, those foundational things, one, I know my most important job is recruiting, right? Any sales leader's job, kind of number one, it's recruit. You think it's, hey, always deliver on the number, but it's actually recruiting is the first one, because it's rare that an A player just walks through your door, right? You see potentially, the resumes that come in, dear hiring manager, dear, someone who didn't put any effort in to landing a job. So, it's on me to go out, and when I think about 1, 2, 3 quarters down the road, who can I start courting along the way? Because it's not often that a great person is available the minute you meet them. So you have to kind of work through that along the way. Secondly was, kind of standardization. So across the board, whether our SDR team, or ISRs, or AEs, we had to ensure everybody was very much in alignment on our messaging, right? That everybody could deliver the 8 to 10 slides that are the front end of every presentation, have our speaker notes written out, have them practice with us, have them practice with their peers, have them practice in a group, but to ensure that, if you're down the hallway here or you're upstairs, that, whether you're talking to an SDR or you're talking to an AE, the message is the same, right? So you had to create really that standardization. Otherwise, you'd probably get multiple answers to, what we do. But it's presenting, it's how do we do discovery, how do we do qualification, very important. And, for me, I look at the App Dynamics playbook, right? They were bought by Cisco for $3.7 billion. And their worldwide sales VP, this was core. No matter, they had obviously way more reps globally, probably 2,000 reps globally. And for them, it's like, hey, as a rep, you get 3 shots at delivering this presentation. And if you can't do it, you're out. Right? They took it very, very seriously. And, to me, it mattered. I mean, a $3.7 billion exit was pretty impressive. It was one of the largest multiples for a software company, as of that time. And then, ensuring that our demos deliver value, right? How many times do, you see that, hey, we just show everything that we can do, but we don't even know if that's truly resonating and delivering on what the client was looking for. So we want to make sure that the demos we create, and it's something we're certainly working on ourselves right now to, certainly improve upon on is just, hey, is this the right demo for the right persona? You know, because for us, it may be a VP of e-commerce one day, somebody in digital marketing another, or potentially QA, dev, or ops teams as well. So we have to customize and change our message depending upon the persona. So I think it's important to make sure that, you know, with your own companies that you're thinking through that. Are we demonstrating the value given the persona we're speaking with? And then, you know, I think also putting together a real good operational cadence. I'm thankful I have an amazing sales operations analyst, and she keeps me sorted every single week. But you know, we have a cadence that there's a standard deck that we review every week. That essentially it's the pulse and the rhythm of our business, right? Every week, so that when our CEO asks, "How are we doing? What does this look like? What does that look like?" You know, we've got the deck ready to go, which is certainly an important thing there. And then training, right? Investing in people and ensuring that they're educated properly on whether it's sales calls or the discovery or the training that they need on just deal management in general. We embrace some enterprise selling methodologies here that are certainly used by some of the largest software companies in the world today as well. And I think that's, you know, that's proven very helpful because it helped all of us standardize on our language when we talk about deals internally, so everybody is on the same page. So in the reality, kind of, I'll close with this here, you know, and I'm sure you've probably seen this floating around, but, you know, people tend to think success is just like that, just a straight line and it's all great, and that's how we get there. But the reality is it's the right side here, right? It's a slugfest along the way. It's the days you're in the doldrums thinking, how could we turn this around? How are we ever going to get better? Everything's on fire. To the next day where you landed a new deal and it was a great logo and you're excited and you think we're great. But I think for us, we know that on the journey to 20 is our next milestone. We'll have a lot of this along the way here, but you know, the goal for us is to continue always going up and to the right, kind of just leveraging some of the foundational things that I've shared here today. Okay. All right.
Great, we're going to have a couple questions open up. I've got one that I want to start with. So you started in January of last year, right? Well, for the sales leaders who are going to come into a new company that maybe has been around for 2 years, 4 years, what are the what's like the first thing you did on day one when you're like, all right, I've got to kind of step back and figure out what to do?
Yeah, so certainly, other than just going and meeting everybody in every department to learn about them, you know, really very much that first quarter was observing, right? What's working? What got the company to the point that they're at then? What does everybody think they need to do differently? You know, kind of those hallway conversations of, you know, across the respective departments. You know, what do you think? What worked? What didn't work? And I think I was in the first quarter really just in data gathering mode and observing and kind of formulating, okay, based on what I'm hearing, these are probably going to be the go forward plans. And then literally, you know, day 91 implementing. Really.
Awesome. What is that? You had an operational cadence or something that you go over weekly, and kind of what does that look like?
Right. So we look at the pipeline that we created, literally week to week. We look at our bookings week to week. You know, how much was new, how much was expansions. We look at each individual on how much pipeline did they create. Was it self-generated pipeline, if you're an ISR or an AE? Was it pipeline created by our SDR team or our marketing team or our alliance team? So we understand, you know, what each department is contributing to the overall pipeline. We look at just kind of what mostly around that. It's really mostly a pipeline exercise, and then we start to look at, okay, based upon what we've created over kind of in a trailing 90-day view, what are we thinking we might deliver in terms of actual bookings next quarter, right? So we know in our environment that once we have a deal hit qualified stage, we close 33%. That's just what the trailing 12 months shows us. So therefore, we're looking at that saying, okay, how much of this pipeline, the total open pipeline, is at 30%, meaning qualified stage, and then we start guesstimating, okay, we're going to close a third of that, plus whatever may carry over that doesn't happen in the trailing quarter. We kind of layer that in there as well, like earlier stage deals. We'll layer that in there as well to kind of give us a sense. So if Craig asks me, hey, what do things look like, and we're still 2 months away from day one of the next quarter, I can give them a ballpark kind of week to week based on what the data shows. Because if you've got the right sales caliber, the deals will happen. They will close them, but we have to create them. And then we'll work the deal cycles and ensure the proper deal management along the way of the sales campaign. And we'll hopefully increase our averages, but right now it's 33%.
Great information. Thanks very much for sharing what you have. Have you found value or benefit in taking those 90-day quarterly goals and breaking those into 30-day objectives, maybe even self-defined by the team that can then be monitored or measured against those weekly cadences?
Yeah, what we do, so every 30 days, while I look with my leadership team kind of on a week-to-week basis, every 30 days we call it RPAs, right? It's from there's a great book from Mike Weinberg called Sales Simplified, right? He talks about our results, pipeline, and activity. And we every 30 days we do our look back. What were your results? What pipe did you create? And what was the activity if you were short on results and short on pipe, right? And that's kind of the rhythm with the reps. We just started doing it with our SDR team as well. So I think there's just that sense that, hey, you want a culture of accountability and high performance, that's the conversations you have to have, right? So we do that 30-day look back, which we find very healthy. So we're never getting to the end of the 90-day mark saying, okay, what did it look like? That's kind of a weekly to 30-day.
How do you align churn with sales commissions so that you're not signing up clients that will churn?
Yeah. So we haven't done anything to align on the compensation side. But what I will say is the churn that we have historically seen has primarily been more in that SMB arena. Okay, they're just more volatile there. Whereas someone left the company or just the budget dried up, it's not there anymore. Our focus, our buyer persona is very much the mid-market to enterprise space. And while sales cycles are a little bit longer, the due diligence they do and the contract process they go through, the decision they make about putting our platform in place tends to have them less of a churn risk because the investment they made and they themselves look bad because the deal sizes are also bigger as well, right? Whereas our average contract value across the board, top to bottom, is about $25K. But most of the enterprise deals we're landing, those are closer to like $75 to $100K or more type deals, and they just are less at risk for churn. So what I am is very aligned with our chief customer officer and the client success team to ensure that once that handoff occurs, that they are very much there. And we put our pre-sales engineer on the same team as our delivery resources so that they're part of that whole buyer journey, right? So that it's not that traditional handoff where...
Would it make any sense to not sell to those small businesses?
It would make a lot of sense. And we kind of don't do that so much. We wouldn't turn it away, but like our SDR team and our reps, they are really only targeting companies that are doing over $100 million a year in revenue, just because we just know our chance of A, affordability of the platform is more likely there, and B, they're just less likely to churn. And then now we're really trying to wrap professional services around that, kind of as a managed service weekly that we offer, so that we're talking with them week to week to week, so we would know way ahead of time if we were at risk of a churn down the road. But if we try to position ourselves as an extension of their staff, hey, just work with us 1 to 2 hours a week, we'll tell you what we're seeing on your site that needs to be fixed. They view it like, hey, we're a really inexpensive resource that they could leverage. And then they don't look at it so much as, hey, I want to churn from rigor. They're more like, I don't want to churn from this resource that helps me every week. So that's kind of how we try to get at it.
Hey, Pete, I appreciate you put recruiting as number one in your list of priorities as a sales leader. Along those lines, what do you look for in terms of a personality profile or something like, I don't know whether you do anything structured or whether you just go like that or a mixture of both. And do you, and another, I guess a secondary question would be, do you see success of people coming from tangible product sales into this line of work, and are they successful?
Yeah, so I definitely know kind of our hiring profile, based on the personas that we have, just in terms of skill set and background. I think, in terms of just, that kind of stuff aside, I'm looking for, are they curious during the interview process? Are they coachable, right? And I may ask them things along the way to kind of glean that out. Like, for example, when we get to a stage that we have someone, maybe do a presentation for me, as kind of one of the last steps. As soon as they end, the very first question I ask them is, okay, great, self-diagnose for me. And I just kind of shut up. And I hear what they say. And they're either going to, fall all over themselves, which could happen because they just don't expect the question. But what I'm looking for is for them to basically say, here's what I think I did good, here's where I think I could have done better, and then what do you think I could have done better? Because now there's, if you think about mindset, they're soliciting feedback. They're probably coachable. I'm observing. Are they taking notes when I start to give them the answer, right? Are they paying attention to the detail? Are they taking what I'm telling them as valuable? And if they're not checking the boxes on those things, it's kind of the profile. Do we have any mutual connections? Did they put in the time to do the research on a meeting they were about to have? Because I know the very best I'm ever going to get from somebody is day one when I meet them. Right? It's going to go downhill after that. And then I just, clearly I'll look at their background, I'll vet them through our contacts. As you know, you can vet a candidate in a minute on LinkedIn. And then I look at track record, were they a constant every 12 to 18 months to a new job, or do they have good 3, 4, 5-year runs in places where they accomplish stuff? Were they quick to put results on their resume? When I see a salesperson's resume that doesn't have results, I don't give it a lot of look. What I like is the reps that are like, I've accomplished some good things, I've done good work. So it's kind of a lot of those factors, if you will. And I'll tell you, if you pay attention to like Mark Robert's sales acceleration formula, they talk a lot about really good hiring profiles that, hey, these are things that if they're not clicking off on these 5, 10 things, look out.
Let's give Pete a round of applause. Will you be around for the happy hour later, Pete?
I will, yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. So if there's any more questions, I would like to introduce the next speaker, Kevin O'Malley. Come on down. So Kevin has over 20 years of marketing experience. Just over 10 years ago, he departed a comforting career in a Fortune 550 UPS and dove headfirst into the now thriving SaaS scene. Not exactly what his then pregnant wife with twins had in mind for. Isn't that right, Kevin?
That's very right.
Today, Kevin is running marketing for one of the fastest, if not the fastest, SaaS company in Atlanta, SalesLoft. Kevin enjoys learning new methods of marketing that improves the speed and accuracy for creating predictable and scalable growth. Very timely, coming off of Pete's. His specialties include B2B marketing, product management, product marketing, strategy, business development, event production and management, sales development, and demand gen. Hopefully we'll get to some of these.
Just a little bit of all, yeah.
And fun fact for all, in high school, Kevin competed in a statewide competition for accounting. Needless to say, that experience set him off towards a glorious career in marketing. Please welcome Kevin O'Malley.
Thank you. Wow. Quite an introduction. I'm happy to be here. We're gonna cover a lot in the next 20 minutes. So how many marketers are in the room? Ah, sweet. How many people are not marketers and want to become marketers in the next 20 minutes? I'm going to share a lot with you of how some of the things that we're doing at SalesLoft and how we think about marketing. And so I hope at the end of this conversation, you may have a different perspective on when we think about SaaS marketing. I think a lot of us think about the metrics, the conversion rates, the optimizations, the A/B testing, right? Yes, you do that. That's table stakes. I think with marketers and SaaS have an opportunity to do something different and bring back what's important about marketing is the creative side, the brand side. And so I want to introduce some of the concepts and structure that we have in place to ensure that we have that in mind. But first, just a quick background. my sort of path to marketing highlighted by John there. It actually started, my dad started an apparel company, Mickey Company, and I was a young child watching my dad be an entrepreneur, build a brand, and it was very inspiring. So I, of course, wanted to do that, and so I started my own paper route to I ultimately wanted to become my father, right? And so that led to not very good success. I knew there was more in life. So then I went to Northeastern University up in Boston so I could go to school for 6 months and work for 6 months and really discover what I want and didn't want. From there, I had an opportunity as an intern to choose my path. And this is really where my life took a different direction. I had an opportunity at Frito-Lay, and I had an opportunity at AC Nielsen. I don't know if you certainly know Frito-Lay. AC Nielsen gathers all the point of sale data from grocery stores and convenience stores and resells that to brands so they can better understand market share. So I had an opportunity to decide between these two interns, but let me give you a mix there, even more challenging. Frito-Lay intern was in Martha's Vineyard for the summer. Had my own route, market my own product, have a pretty good summer in Martha's Vineyard, or I could go to Norwalk, Connecticut and have a cube and crunch data for a summer. Now, what do you think I chose? No, I don't know what got into me, but I actually chose Norwalk, Connecticut to work at a cube. And the reason why I did that is right around the same time as when the internet started happening, and there's so much data that was being talked about. And I felt as an undergrad in marketing that data was going to become more and more important, understanding and having more insights than ever before. And so I really wanted to dive into that to better learn about how to use data in marketing. And so I passed up the opportunity to go to Martha's Vineyard, but it ultimately led me to Atlanta at Coca-Cola, over then to the big UPS. But then I got the startup bug, and quickly thereafter I met a gentleman, Kyle Porter, who is our CEO of SalesLoft, a week after he started SalesLoft. And so we sparked up a good relationship over a few years, did some fun stuff together while he was ramping up SalesLoft, and I was one of the earlier customers, and I had the opportunity to be one of the first speakers at our Rainmaker event as a customer. I think this is the last time I actually wore a jacket. Ever since I joined SalesLoft, I've been wearing pullovers and t-shirts, and now I'm starting to bring back the collar a little bit. But SalesLoft is, my journey there really started as a customer and seeing the impact that the technology was having on the sales market and certainly marketing as well. Eventually, I led that led me to SalesLoft, which I was leading marketing, and this was my first week of marketing at SalesLoft, and I'm like, where's the data? I'm here to crunch data. Let's go build a pipeline. Next thing I know, I'm out on the streets in San Francisco during Dreamforce. We're putting out a presidential campaign for Mark Benioff. He's the CEO of Salesforce, and we did a Benioff President 2020, and we did this whole campaign around why you should vote for Benioff for president. And it got a tremendous amount of exposure. It had nothing to do with conversion rates. It had nothing to do with optimization and your conversion points, your funnel. This was about building a brand, building a presence, sticking out without all the noise out there. As I'm sure many of you are out selling and marketing your products, there's a lot of alternatives. And you certainly have to find ways to stick out from that crowd. And that's something I learned early on at SalesLoft, that it's more than just the numbers. And it's more than you think today as we think about marketers. It's bringing back the brand concept. So for those that know SalesLoft, for those that don't know, just a little background, some context of what drives our marketing. It's really not an untold story. We share a lot about SalesLoft. But I'm not going to go through this whole thing. But the point of this slide is we've done over 130 product releases in the last year. So as a marketer, you can imagine trying to keep up with the pace of innovation, how to continuously stay ahead of the change that SalesLoft is driving, the growth that it's having. As a marketer, to constantly rethink how you're going to market, change position, change your perception, change your messaging. The pace in which the marketing operates at SalesLoft is at a staggering rate. It's both an opportunity and a threat. It definitely is a challenging part of being a marketer at SalesLoft, is staying ahead of the growth, but I'll take that any day. The other thing is we've had amazing recognition. So when your company gets recognized as a fast-growing company, Kyle and Rob invested early on in culture. The awards and recognition we get really helps elevate us as an organization. And then we're proud to also be here in Atlanta and really help the community that we believe is only beginning around SaaS here in Atlanta. So it's, I'm excited to continue to share what we're learning so that others can benefit from it and apply to their business, so we can have more sales lofts and terminuses and riggers here in Atlanta. That actually backdrop is right over there. That's where Sales Loft, after we grew out of ATV, we went next door. And that's the team before we moved to Midtown. But culture is a big part of Sales Loft is about, but it's also part of our marketing. You think about how to align your values to how you're going to market. When you're marketing, you're creating a brand, you're creating a promise. That promise needs to be realized at some point. And so having your messaging and having your position be representative and reflective of who you are is a much easier proposition than making a promise or following values that are not aligned with your company. So values in marketing and branding go very closely hand in hand. All right, so let's talk some marketing. For those that are marketers, it's going to be fun. For those that are not, hopefully you find it fun. I want to introduce you to sort of the three areas of marketing, how we structure the group at marketing. There's 15 of us within the marketing function. And there's three main areas. We've got the brand experience team. They're thinking about how do I represent the brand in every touch point that we have, both offline and online. Our product description, our company description is on over 25 sites around the internet. So we changed the way our boilerplate, we've got to change 25 different sites all that same time, right? When we go to an event, the promises that we make in the trade show booth, and they go to check it out online, are those in sync? And so brand is a really key aspect of how we go to market. And then there's product marketing, and that's the follow through of the brand promise. That's the actual product itself, and the way you position it and market the capabilities to solve your customers' problems. And then you have a very important part, which many of you think of demand gen, we call it programs. We are an account-based structured team, so we have a very specific set of group of accounts that we go after. And the programs team are the ones designing and managing the campaigns to go after those target accounts, or the ones aligning with sales to ensure we can engage those accounts. So those three groups work together, and it looks something like this. So you have the brand, you have the product marketing, you have the programs. You overlap those in the center all the time, every day. We are talking about and thinking about customers, not the ones that you want to have, the ones you have. So that's ultimately what your business is going to be built on long term. And so we are constantly evolving our marketing around our customer, and then we go out from there. And so I mentioned about those three groups. Each of these groups are overlapping. So there's not one thing that we do in marketing that doesn't require somebody else's help. So for instance, let's say we have a new feature. Product marketing is the one who creates the message, how we want to talk about it. Brand is social media, so they're helping us promote it. Brand's also the one creating the events. They're the ones also creating the content. And so they're creating content to reinforce the value of that product on product blogs, ebooks. And so it's very well aligned there, but they're also very specific disciplines. And so each of those overlaps drives product innovation. It also drives from the brand to programs. This is where personalization comes in. With account-based, you have a great opportunity since you're focused on so many. We focus on 6,000 accounts. Then we tier those accounts. We've got tier 1 that are only 30 accounts. Then you have 200 accounts that we target. Then the rest are on that bottom of the pyramid. And so we have an opportunity to personalize that experience. That's where that overlap occurs. And that team is working together to create really creative and interesting ways to engage our tiered customers or prospects. All the way from, we'll send a food truck over to our top tier customer to put it right outside their company and offer some free lunch for those who would like it to get noticed. But we also do use products like Terminus for air cover ads and other creative ways to stay in front of those accounts. So there's one here, it's a little build up here, but this is a team that works, yep, there you go. There's 15 people, as I mentioned, amazing skills. They all specialize in their very specific areas. As you grow your marketing team, for those that are in a growth pattern, those 3 circles are going to remain. What's happening is those circles get bigger and they get a lot more complex. You have a lot more customers, so you have more internal departments being built. You have a lot of different inputs going on. But this structure has stayed with us from going from $1 million in ARR to close to 25. And it's just, the circles have certainly grown, but that collaboration and the overlap has remained the same. I'm going in the right direction here. Aha. So what happens when you go to market with these 3 things working really well together? You've got the product marketing tight on what the product actually does and how to position it well. You've got the brand that's creating a promise to potential customers and the customers on what to expect, how to look and feel with when you're doing business with SalesLoft. And then you've got your programs team that are tightly integrated programs to engage these accounts. And what comes out is really this thing what we talk about is capturing the hearts. You know, we think about a lot of times when you think about content marketing, you're thinking about creating content that solves problems. So the tendency is to think about the mind. What are the rational issues that particular prospect is having? But the first thing we think about at SalesLoft is a very emotional side. How do you capture their hearts? How do you tell them that you love them? We love salespeople. That's what we do at SalesLoft. That drives our purpose every day. We love salespeople. We love the profession of sales. We love solving their problems. We love salespeople. And then therefore, when you start with that, what happens is you naturally create a brand that represents that promise. So capturing the hearts, capturing the minds. I love the moments when you're presenting and everybody takes out to capture that one framework that everybody thinks. Having content and insights is critical to connect both on the top of the funnel, but also once you get them engaged. Marketing is not just about generating leads or getting that initial engagement of account. It's actually getting them all the way from lead through renewal. And so having insights along the way that will provide value to your business is something that we're spending more and more time on. We're doing our own research. We're taking aggregate of all of our 500 million sales activities that have gone through our platform and coming out and sharing what insights that we've seen with this data. And so we're engaged with our brand. And then ultimately, one of our sort of core pillar marketing strategies is to create the largest sales force. We call that our customers. And if you make the promise correct, and you follow through with that promise, and you treat them right, and you add value to their business, to G2 crowd, where one customer can make the greatest impact, but also one pissed off customer can also make the greatest impact. That you're creating advocates out of your customers. And I'm not talking about a point system to win t-shirts. I'm talking about truly connecting with them, surprising and delighting them, making sure that they're getting the service that they deserve. Are you investing enough in maximizing the use of the product? Are you giving them training to ensure they're adopting your product? So all those things are around creating that advocacy to ultimately ensure that they're ultimately our largest sales force. So coming back to reinforce this, engaged. Are we engaging them through their hearts, their minds, and what difference are you making in their business? And so, as I think about some questions for you, as you think about if you're a marketer or wanting to become one or just trying to figure out marketing, I ask these 3 questions. You should ask for your business. Is what are you doing to enlighten the hearts of your customers? Or are you just thinking about them as data points, conversion points, A/B testing, open rates, click-through rates? These are, like I say, these are people too. And so looking at the aspect of what are you doing to enlighten them? What are you doing to engage the minds? So are you out there finding research and insights that can actually challenge the way they're doing their business? or enlighten them on something that maybe they didn't see a problem that was coming. Maybe it's a market opportunity, maybe it's another way of looking at their business. But what are you doing to enlighten them and engage their minds? And then ultimately, it's what are you doing to make a difference in their business? We talk about this a lot. We spend a lot of time about what problem are we actually solving for our customers? What problem are they going to have? How do we anticipate the problem that they're going to have before they even have it? And that's where the data comes in. That's where we spend a lot of time talking to customers. We're a lot of time bringing that together and reflecting where are they going to be? Making sure that we're making a difference. As a marketing leader, one of the greatest opportunities I've had has been at SalesLoft. And it's been an amazing ride. For 3 years, I've had the opportunity to lead the marketing effort there, from 30 employees to now close to 300. It is a lifetime experience that you try never to take for granted, because being in the startup world, it's very difficult to get to 1 million. It's very difficult to get to 5, and it's very difficult to get to 25. And I appreciate every moment that I have. I have had some lessons learned, though. These the 3 that I love to share with you. As we've added people, assuming goodwill, that we move so fast. And when you're at a startup, you just have to assume that people that are coming to work at SalesLoft, every day they're trying to do the right thing. And so the thing that I always remind myself, in fact, some of our team members have it on their desk, assume goodwill. Assume that the person's trying to do the right thing. Maybe they need better leadership in ensuring clarity of the mission or clarity of the role. I mean, some of the real fundamentals, we spend a lot of time about clarity of role, clarity of mission. And you can't underestimate the power of that. The other one is negative stress and ensuring that, as a fast-growing company, Kyle's sort of a hard-charging CEO, right? Yeah. Okay. John knows him. He's amazing. We're trying to do a lot of things, and we're all human, though. And so what I've learned is that, and still learning, is that when trying to do a lot, it can get very stressful. And as a leader, you have to ensure that stress, that pressure of performance doesn't turn into negative, because it impacts the productivity of your team. They can feel that. It takes away, distracts them from what they should be focused on. And then delegate what you love the most. As you grow, you have more people. You're hired for a particular skill or a particular reason. I've found where I have to give up things that I love doing, because how am I going to grow? The number one challenge I've had at SalesLoft is growing personally faster than the company. And how do I continue to invest in my skills so that I can keep up the pace at SalesLoft? So those are the 3 things that I share with you, and things that I've learned along the way. Cool.
Thank you. I'll kick this one off too, because I do have a question. So you talked about, I love the transition from coming into SalesLoft, data, to talking about capturing the minds and the hearts. What type of communication are you as the team doing? Is it once a week, once a month of brainstorming the future product or the future problems that you're solving, communicating? Like, how do you guys, how as a leader do you facilitate that kind of ideation?
Yeah, one thing that SalesLoft, Kyle particularly, and Rob, they invested in a rhythm of operating the business. And so we have anything from one-page strategic plans, so that it's very clear what we're trying to achieve as a company. And then that brings it down to the function level, where I have a one-page strategic plan, where the group can understand they're part of the whole. And so there's the broad sort of view of the longer view of what we're trying to accomplish, and so it allows people to align to that. We use an OKR system that allows them to align objectives of what they're doing, and then the key results, the effort that the results of their efforts, so that they're very aligned to what we're trying to achieve. But the daily rhythm for us is we do the daily stand-up, where we talk about what we did yesterday, what we're going to do today, and then we get together every other week. It's sort of set up as I used to refer to it as agile marketing. I don't use any buzzword now for it because it's way modified. But it's essentially bringing the team together every 2 weeks where you do a little broader retrospect of what worked, what didn't, what changes you want to make. And then everybody sort of shares what they're going to be doing over the next 2 weeks to ensure the alignment's still there.
Awesome. Great. Were there any other couple questions?
The growth of the company, how do you make sure that your data and your systems are evolving to keep up as well?
I blame the sales ops when that doesn't go well.
I'm in sales ops, so I can appreciate that.
Yes, I just had that email yesterday. I'm like, it sounds like a sales ops problem. Yeah, data, where we spend a lot of time on the data up front is around the account selection, and it's a challenge. There's so much great data out there. It's bringing it all together and keeping it up to date, and making sure that the fields that you're referencing to make these decisions are the best possible data. It is an ongoing challenge. Anywhere from moving providers, and now you have a new data source that sort of everybody wants to question whether those are good phone numbers or not, and data quality is an ongoing topic, and certainly an area that we could get better in, and I'm sure a lot of other people are.
To turn your customers into those advocates that you want them to be?
Yeah. I think the biggest example of where that advocacy comes into play is our annual Rainmaker event. We started it, Kyle sort of saw the foresight of having a community that comes together on a regular basis, at least once a year. And the first year we had 30 people, which I think we had over 1,100. And next year we're planning for 1,800. The numbers are not as important as the people that are coming together. It's just been, since it's been larger, the conversations have been more, right? But it's still the same idea of bringing the advocate base mixed in with people that are sort of on the bubble. They're like, I really like this community, I really love the topic, but it's creating the environment that allows these groups to come together and share. A lot of these sales leaders love sharing what they're doing that's working and what's not, and so giving them a channel to communicate and share their stories with others. Rainmaker has been some of the best examples. And then certainly just giving them, these companies are selling technology as well, giving them avenues online, whether it's doing videos on them or case studies, incorporating them into our content. That's another way for us to share back some of the community learnings to the rest of the group.
On your slide that showed the intersection that resulted in
There's a lot going on in there, yes.
So on the customer being the obsessed focus,
Yeah.
If I called your company for sales,
Because Katie Christensen, our customer success VP, she's going to be speaking later. So if a customer called, we use a routing system that detects that they're a customer, and it'll route to their assigned owner, and they'll be the person that would reach out to them. So it's on the front end. If they reach out to us, it routes them to the best person. But obviously, other building functions like support, and so they're set to be a lot more proactive on the response time. But Katie, I'm sure will be able to cover some of that this afternoon.
Just to follow up, you may not have I have the problem. You may not have the problem of resources. Are you able to spend the resources that you want on the clients in order to make sure that you're retaining them? Or...
Yeah, I mean that's a great question. From the customer marketing standpoint, us local, we're doing a lot more field marketing events. On the marketing side, we're well funded in ensuring that we're investing and celebrating them. But the challenge where other aspects of the business are going through are what's the ratio between support, number of support reps, and number of CSMs to customers, and how you distribute them, and that's a whole another model that luckily marketing doesn't have to do.
Okay, last question.
Okay, thanks. You talked about enlightening hearts.
The heart, talk about the heart and mind idea, is the sort of emotive brand that we're creating around We Love Salespeople, that it's sort of true to who we are as a company, and so that comes out in different ways. Comes out in ways that when we're at events, we will surprise and delight and take you on a cruise. It's recognizing them as customers. It's recognizing you're also connecting with them to show how much value. We also believe that heart aspect is hard to replicate, and it over time is a differentiator, much like it is with Apple versus Dell. And so if you're investing in that emotional connection that you have with your customers, that is much harder to replicate than I've got great data.
I'm interested in the operational ones.
We have an ongoing campaign called Sales Love, and we will drop into New York City with 15 of our folks, and they'll visit every customer during that day. They'll drop off cookies, a t-shirt, and a thank you. And we're not asking for upgrades, we're not asking for renewals, we're just there to say thank you and a token of appreciation. So that's one thing that we do to ensure that.
He's always had my heart. All right, so we've got 15 minutes, 2:45. Let's all be back in the seats, and for the second half, we've got some amazing speakers for the second half, and then of course the interview with Scott Voigt, CEO of Full Story. So take 15 minutes, bathroom break, relax, and we'll be back. Thank you. All right, we're coming up at 2:44. Everyone starts grabbing their seats. We want to get back. The next rapid fire session is on product engineering. And Matthew Swanson has some fantastic experience. So if everyone goes ahead and grabs their seats, we can jump into the second half or third period, second period. Great. So let's welcome Matthew Swanson of Sync, which is Commissions Inc. Matt created the software architecture behind Commissions Inc. platform today. Today, Commissions Inc. has over 180 employees and provides software for real estate agents who have had over 200,000 closings in the last 12 months. Wow. Before joining Sync, he was the CTO of HBN Interactive and Directive Marketing Technologies at Career Builder, where he served for over 8 years. Matt worked to develop emerging partnerships with companies such as Disney and Facebook, in addition to SEO initiatives. He also served as a senior software engineer with Career Builder, and before then he was a consultant with Accenture. There he led development efforts with clients such as Bank of America, AT&T, and the Office of Comptroller of the Currency. In his free time, Matthew is hashtagging #BGE. For those in the know, that means grilling masterpieces on the big green egg. Let's welcome Matthew.
Thanks for having me today, everybody. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to everybody. And I was listening to Kevin's talk, and actually we did send our customers on a cruise, so it's quite interesting. And I'll save that story for another day. So first off, I just want to say thanks to David for this venue. In 2011, when we started Commissions Inc., this venue didn't exist. And there wasn't really an opportunity for SaaS entrepreneurs to come in and network and get to know each other and just have a lessons learned opportunity. So this is really exciting. So David, thank you for this opportunity to do this. So today I'm going to tell you the story about how 3 co-founders from Marietta, Georgia started in a small house off the Marietta Square in 2011. And 5 years later, the business sold for $240 million to a publicly traded company. So I'm excited to tell that story today. So first, a little about you and a little about me. How many people in here are engineers? So you write software, you write code. And how many people are on the business side, where you're just more on the business side? Okay. So, I'm an engineer, so I have my notes. So a little bit about me. This was me before Sync. So as you know, startups can be stressful. Launching new businesses can be stressful, and it's a great experience, but it's not easy. So I went to the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. I have a logistics and transportation degree. Worked for Accenture out of college for a couple of years and did some consulting work and tried to figure out what did I really want to do. At that time, the internet was really starting to boom in the late 90s. I went to work for Headhunter.net as a web developer. I built an e-commerce system and forums that allow job posters to post jobs on Headhunter.net. Eventually, it was sold to CareerBuilder.com. So I worked for CareerBuilder for about 8 years, doing things from the job search engine to the marketing team, working with Facebook. We launched the Facebook Apps Initiative. We were one of Facebook's first partners to spend $1 million on ad spend with Facebook building applications in 2008. So in after I left in 2008, I had an opportunity to work with Dwayne Legate and Brian O'Neill. These are 2 guys that I knew from Career Builder. Dwayne had a vision for Commissions Inc. The vision for Sync, I'm going to refer to it as Sync because we rebranded, but Dwayne had a vision for Sync that the real estate industry is very segmented. Companies are providing tools, but those tools, they're good, but in some areas they're not quite as good. So a lot of real estate agents have to go out and buy their own tools. So they might be spending $250 here, $100 there, $500 there. So Dwayne's goal for our company was really to build a system that was a one price, that had all the functionality and features that all these small tools would have. And as we innovated and built new things, we weren't going to charge our clients any more money. And I'll say clients there for a very specific reason. When we started building the business, we were targeting top elite teams, people that sold 50 to 100 transactions per year. So if you think about it, a customer, you hear customer service. Like customers typically are, you'll go to a fast food restaurant at Chick-fil-A and you'll be a customer, or you'll go to Burger King. But for what we wanted to build, client was critical. Dwayne was very, very adamant that we work with clients. These people would be spending, $1,500 to $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 a month with us. A client is somebody that you're a client of your accountant, you're a client of an attorney. So we wanted to make sure that our clients felt like they were really getting what they were paying for. So Brian O'Neill, I worked with him at Headhunter.net as we built the job posting forms. Super sharp guy. He knows batch processing systems better than anybody I've met. Dwayne has a brilliant sales mind. Dwayne can see market opportunity and vision unlike anybody I've ever met. He can connect to clients and show them the vision that he's laid out. So we all came together in 2011 to make this happen. So really, what is Sync? Sync is a platform for real estate agents. Think about, David put it this way, marketing automation targeted to real estate agents. So Commissions Inc. brings basically a system together that allows real estate agents just to focus on selling homes, not worrying about the technology behind it. So we have a SEM team that manages all the ad spend and pay-per-click for the clients. We're touching upwards of 200 to 500,000 keyword campaigns a day with Google through automation. There's a lot happening that we're doing to tap into the local MLS, to build the client's website, to drive traffic to their sites, to get them to convert, signing them up, connecting them to the agents and brokers, and ultimately facilitating a transaction, much like John was talking about earlier. So engineering the infrastructure. What does that mean? So in 2011, AWS had been around for probably 7 years at the time. It was still kind of in its infancy, and we had learned at Career Builder, a lot of the infrastructure we had was in physical data centers. So what we wanted to do is, at AWS, we looked at it, we were kind of like, we really want that hand-holding and really an extension of our team. So we went to Rackspace. So Rackspace was our preferred vendor from the start, and they provided not only the hardware infrastructure we need, but also the operational expertise. Brian and I were software guys. We didn't want to focus on the hardware part. So we just looked at Rackspace to make sure that they could provide that service for us. So in 2011, it was just Brian and I building the product, and we were like, we really have to start scaling our team. So how do we do that? So we were like, we talked to Dwayne, we got an approval for an intern. So we were like, we're going to go to Georgia Tech. We got in with Career Services. We're going to interview a few people, and hopefully one of them will join our company and help us start building this product. So we go into Georgia Tech. We go down to Career Services that first day. We look on the big board that has all the employers that are on campus interviewing. We walk in, and this is the slide that shows. It's HBN Media, and it's Victoria's Secret. And I remember looking at Brian, and I was like, nobody's ever going to come work for HBN Media. Like, this is not good. But that day, we actually had 3 interviews scheduled. Justice Blasco, Hong Lee, and John Dugan. And thankfully, after we interviewed the 3 of them, they were all phenomenal students. Each of them in their own right had done amazing things, even in college. Justice Blasco had built MP3 management with using a PHP CRM type system to manage all his music while he was in high school. Hong Lee was building Firefox plugins at 14 years old. And John Dugan was building iOS and Android apps as a freshman in college. So we knew these 3 guys that we had interviewed were really the top guys that could possibly help join our company. So we go back to the office and talk to Brian, and he's like, hey, we need to hire one intern. I was like, no, we have to hire all of them. So we extended an offer to all 3 of them. So John and Hong accept the offer. So they decide to come on. They're coming on to work the first day. They show up to our office. They actually circled the office 3 times before they decided to get out and come to the front door to see if it was really our company. In May 2011, our product was just getting off the ground. We were going through, we had our interns, we started building, we didn't quite yet have customers. I opened up my devotional that day, this was the slide I read. It says, there will be no limit to what you can accomplish. So I show you this because there's encouragement in all things that you do. Each one of you, as you're launching your business, you're going through hard times. It is not easy to start a software company. It sounds glorious and it sounds glamorous. When your friends see that, oh, you're at the Tech Village and you're part of a startup, it's a great opportunity. But it's not easy. It's really, really hard. And I just wanted to encourage each one of you here today that as you're building your companies, don't give up. Do not quit. My grandmother grew up in Peachtree Garden Apartments, a few miles up the road. Today it's a Costco and a Moe's and a whole big thing. And she always told me, do not give up. Do not quit what you start. Now, there were a lot of times as we're building this company where I wanted to quit and I didn't want to do it. And it was hard. And those times came later in 2011 when Dwayne came to me and Brian, he said, hey guys, I'm not even taking a salary right now. And by the way, I need to cut your salary by 50%. And I don't know when that's going to stop. You're going to take a salary cut, and it might be 2 months, it might be 6 months, it might be a year, it might be forever. I don't know. And that was a real turning point for me that we had to make a decision. Are we going to stick with this startup and do it, or are we not? So fast forward to the beginning of 2012. Basically, we're sitting here. We've got our new office. We have Sync GHQ 2.0. Does anybody know what GHQ means? It's our galactic headquarters, right? So we throw all the tech guys in this office. The sales team's in the other office. Team is like 3 people, right? So we're both working and building. And then in 2012, we're starting to get customers, starting to get clients. But then we realized, hey, we're starting to outgrow these spaces, so we need to come together into a new location. So we found an office space off Delk Road in Marietta. And by the end of 2012, we were at about 18 to 22 people. Our clients were starting to grow, and we're basically getting a new opportunity. And this was another pivotal point for me personally, where I was under a lot of stress, trying to figure out, can I make this happen? I just had my 3rd kid. I'm focusing on growing my family, doing a startup, and I go in to talk to Dwayne, and he says to me, I just watched that movie, Courageous. And I don't know if you guys remember that movie a few years back, but we had the conversation, and I was like, you know what, I cannot give up. I cannot stop what we started. So then fast forward another year, in 2013, we're in our new office space. It's 4,000 square feet, it's great. I thought we'd never fill up this space. So the company continues to grow, we're adding more people. And then in 2013, Dwayne comes to us and says, we're going to focus our company on a theme, right? So I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Miracle. But the movie Miracle is an amazing story in 1980 U.S. hockey team that had no chance to beat the Russians and win the gold medal, and they did it. And every person that starts at our company watches this movie. Every person that starts at our company understands how hard it was for that team and those boys to come together to build a company. And that's this type of focus and philosophy we had at our company to try to rally our team together to build what we wanted to build for Sync. Fast forward to 2016, we were acquired by our public company, Fidelity National Financial. They're the #1 title insurance company in the United States. It couldn't be a more perfect fit for us because they're already doing title insurance on the back end of all the transactions happening. We're on the front end generating the leads and all the good stuff. So I can go through the company history quickly just to establish a baseline for everybody. This is one of our field day pictures that we did at the Atlanta Battery with our team. Our team today is actually not 180, it's 225 people. So we've gone from 3 to 225 in just 7 years. So really the tech behind Sync. Sorry guys. So as we were building Sync, I would always say to Dwayne, whatever you think that's going to take a day to build will probably take a month, and whatever you think is going to take a month will probably take a day. And I think most tech guys can equate that when you're working with your various product people and CEOs. And that was something that we always had to really focus on is, the product team sometimes would want to come in and say, oh, it's going to take this long. Well, just put it in the hands of the engineers and let the engineers say actually how long it's going to take. So we always had a mantra at headhunter.net, fast, fast, and accurate. We wanted the fastest system, the most accurate system, and something that was fast. So we would follow lean development principles. Get the solution 80% done, get it out into the marketplace, and get feedback from the users. I always use the Microsoft Word example. You know, if you're building Microsoft Word, I mean, everybody in here probably uses Google Docs or Word or something, right? But there's really only 4 or 5 things you do. You open a file, you write some information, you bold it, you italicize it, and you print it. I mean, you don't probably going to put a pivot table from Excel into a Word document, but if you look at all that extra functionality that goes into Word and all the time spent, you're better to build those 5 features, deploy them to production, get feedback from your users, and understand how they're going to use your product. So how do you get behind the technology that you're going to use to build your company? So this is a great slide I like to show. There's so many technologies out there, right? So is it Ruby? Is it Python? Is it Node.js? Like, what is it going to be? Well, the short answer is I would say it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter because whatever your team knows, whatever they're good at, that's what I would say to use. There's a quote from one of my old managers I worked with at Career Builder, Colin Field. And his quote was, all the information generated on the server at the end of the day, no matter what technology it's in, all it does is generate a text file and send it to the client. So your browser is just looking at text, whether it went through whatever it took to get it to that point. Whatever you can get it to the client the fastest and the leanest, that's what you should do. So we went with the Microsoft stack, just because that's what we knew at Career Builder. It's probably against the grain for a lot of people in 2018, but you know, it's one of those things that that's what we knew and that's what we were good at. Today our platform is serving up over 400 million object requests a month with an average response time of less than 200 milliseconds. We wanted our system to be fast. Our SQL database is running 3 terabytes of RAM with an EMC VNX array with 25 terabytes of data. We do 50,000 transactions per second in SQL Server. Most people don't get close to that. So how did we build our product early on? So how do we build the product early on? So Brian O'Neill, our CTO, had a vision. And his vision was, what if we use our own products? We need to have a ticketing system for our developers. Our client service team needs to be able to manage our clients. We're building a CRM, so our real estate broker and agents can manage their leads. So what if we used our product and our technology team on a daily basis managed all their tickets? What if our client service team managed our clients? Since we have a single tenant, single instance, multi-tenant environment, all we had to do is spin up a domain name for SyncGHQ to manage our tickets, for mysync.com to manage our clients. This way our engineers are in there every day using our product to manage their day-to-day work. Our client service team knew our product better than they probably ever would if they were out in Salesforce using it. They're using MySync every day to manage clients. So that was a philosophy that Brian had early on that we really tried to apply to make sure our team really knew what they were doing. So data integration and MLS, this is a huge challenge to our business from a scaling standpoint. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with the multiple listing service, but we work with hundreds of multiple listing service vendors in different areas all across the US and Canada. Normalizing the data, looking at all the data around an MLS system is huge for us. Every MLS implements data differently. There's a standard called RETS, which is basically an XML standard. But that standard can be applied in a number of ways by every MLS. So how do you normalize all that data in and make it coherent? So here's an example. These are 3 fields: beds, bath, and price. So if you look at these gray boxes, this is how various MLSs present data to us. Some MLSs call it 1815. That's the name of the column. It's in position 55. So this is just a small example of the normalization challenge that Sync has to run 24/7, 365 to pull in 7 million active properties for sale in the United States and Canada. So this was a huge piece of our business. So 7 tech lessons learned. So the first lesson is you can do more with less. You really can do way more than you realize with what you have. And I give an example of this. I said earlier we did 50,000 transactions per second in a 25 terabyte SQL database. Up until last December, we had a part-time DBA managing that environment. Part-time. Part-time. The second thing is consistent daily action. Dwayne Legate, our co-founder, got everybody onto the Rockefeller Habits book. There's a premise in the Rockefeller Habits that you should have a daily stand-up meeting. We picked an odd time according to the book. Ours every day was at 9:09. 9:09 a.m., daily stand-up, entire company. Started when we were 15 people in 2012. We finally had to end it at about 120 people about 2 years ago on a daily basis. We still have it every week with the entire company. But believe it or not, we were meeting daily with 100 people, and the meeting was 15 minutes. What are the choke points? What are the vision of the company for the day? What are things that everybody needs to know about? You know, a lot of times those messages get lost in email, but when you're having a daily meeting, you can really proliferate that information a lot easier. Wants versus needs. Wants versus needs is huge. Dwayne would always say to us, if it's a want, think about it. Do you really need to spend the money to do that? If it's a need and you have to do it, then do it. But really think about if it's a nice to have or if it's going to stop you from getting your work done. The fourth thing is don't be afraid to go into an existing market and be leaner and more nimble than your competition and do it better than they can. A startup of 3 people or even 10 people can pivot and deploy a whole lot faster than a company that has 1,000 or 2,000 employees. It's just a heck of a lot easier. I used to give an analogy when I was a career builder. A startup is like pushing a rubber band ball around this room. But if you're a huge company, to pivot that organization, it's like moving the globe. Like it's about impossible to do. So a startup has a competitive advantage just from that standpoint. The fifth thing, tech lesson learned, is go where your competition isn't. When we started in 2011, one of our other competitors had been around for 4 years. They had a large market share, but they didn't have any native iOS and Android apps. So from the start, we started building iOS and Android. That was huge for us. Our clients loved it. Number 6 is infrastructure partners. And I cannot focus on this one enough. For us, it is all about the relationships. Our relationship with Rackspace, our relationship with SendGrid, Twilio, Rigor, all the people behind those companies. That is what has allowed us to do what we've done. While our team was small, we really got to know our infrastructure partners. And I mean, I look at example, Brian, our CTO, just got married. Rackspace sent him a wedding gift. Now, I don't want to offend AWS, but I don't know if they're sending a wedding gift to our CTO, right? So, I mean, getting to know your vendors is huge. It's a huge thing. And then number 7 is best practices. Getting your teams on the same page. Putting in simple things from a technical standpoint that as new employees come on, that they can follow your processes and procedures. Whether that's establishing these 4 columns or in every database table. Whether it's, we're going to use Slack and this is how it's going to be rolled out. Just putting in simple things that the team members can use. So now just a couple things about, I'm presenting some of our story today, but really without our people, this story is not possible. So I gathered a few quotes from some of our team just to kind of show, what Sync's about and what they've learned over our journey of the last 7 years. So Brian O'Neill, there are 2 types of developers, those that love to do technology and those that love to get things done. And we've seen this with multiple people on our team sometimes. Sometimes people just like tech. They don't necessarily like solving a problem. And for us, it was about solving the problems. John Dugan, our lead mobile developer. Even hacky code could still be mission critical, so keep that in mind when cutting corners. A lot of times as engineers, we think, oh, we'll make this quick solution, and in 10 years it won't be done. Well, I was talking to my buddy probably a year ago, a career builder, and I've been gone from there for 8 years. And he said, well, that stuff we wrote in 2004, it's still running. So a lot of times you don't think about that. Your stuff's going to be running for a long, long time. Nate Jones, who's our Senior Director of Technology. Don't be afraid to break things, but be ready to fix it and have a backup plan. An example I think of this is actually from Brian, and he'll probably film you. He'll probably be really mad at me for telling this story, but in 2004, he was editing all the users in Career Builder in a SQL window. He had Query Manager, he had Management Studio open, he'd highlighted all the data, he was about to execute a query. Praise the Lord, he had actually typed in begin trans before he actually ran the query. He highlighted the data, a squirrel falls out of the ceiling. No joke. Squirrel falls out of the ceiling. Everybody jumps up from their cubes. One guy grabs a trash can, he's chasing it. The other guy's a shovel. Like, it was chaos. So finally, after 10 minutes it died down, Brian comes back to his desk and hit execute. Well, he had only partially run his statement, and he dropped the entire user table. Gone. All gone. But he had typed begin trans, so all he had to do was roll back. So just make sure you have a backup plan. That's Nate's quote. Mike Golo, VP of Product, building a solution to solve a problem brings greater returns than doing something for short-term delight. You know, I look at the whole, are you building a vitamin or a painkiller? Like, what is your product fulfilling? Is it doing something to just make your clients' lives a little bit better, or to make your clients' lives significantly better? I love this quote. This is Vishal, but it's actually Dwayne, so I'm going to give credit to Dwayne Legate. But we're all in sales. That question Kevin asked earlier, who's in marketing? Everybody in this room is in marketing. If you work for a company, you're in marketing. Doesn't matter if you're in tech, doesn't matter if you're in sales, billing, whatever the part is, you're playing a part to reduce churn and keep your clients. So 3 key takeaways I have is wants versus needs. And I actually had 4, but the do more with less to me is huge. Like, you can do way more than you realize with what you have. 2, fast, and accurate. And 3, speed is our only competitive advantage. I know I've heard some presentations here at the Village where culture is your only competitive advantage, and I agree with that too, but I think speed is a key one, and something that we've really tried to focus on as we build Commissions Inc. So kind of just to wrap up, I'd just like to encourage each one of you. You know, each one of you are on a different part of your journey as you're building your product. It's not going to be easy. You know, things aren't easy. Things that are successful are not easy to do. I mean, talk to David in detail about building Pardot. It sounds great. It sounds amazing. But the day-to-day grind and what they had to do to make that happen is not easy. What you're doing is not easy. But do not quit and do not give up.
Let's give it up. Wonderful. I've got about 50 questions, but I'll see if anyone has 1 or 2 on. Any questions?
Yeah, I got one here. So you mentioned you have the story of growing from 3 to 15 to 100 plus. How did you keep that communication between product and technology to make sure you're aligned on what are the must-have things to build versus all the cool things to build?
Well, the short answer is it's really easy. We didn't even have product until 2015. So, I mean, I guess like tech just did it. I mean, literally it was, one key thing I didn't talk about is our private Facebook group for our clients was critical to our business. That was their voice. That was their forum for problems, for better, for worse. And when we did it right and we solved the problem right, we heard about it. And if we did something wrong, we heard about it. But our clients would jump in and solve other clients' problems that they were having. Hey, you didn't know you could do this? So our support wasn't even having to get involved. Our other clients were jumping in, and that community was making it happen. So, but to answer your question about products, say it one more time, sorry.
Around the communication between product and technology,
yeah, so,
growing and getting bigger.
Okay, so that's what I was getting at. So early on, right, I mean, you think about, you have no product, you're building it, it's all cup holders, right? So your client wants this, client would ask for it on Facebook, come on a napkin over to tech, we build it and deploy it. So that was really as simple as it was. Now, is there technical depth because of that now at some levels? Yes, but that's kind of how it worked back in the early days.
What was your strategy for the infrastructure partners on kind of building those relationships? Because a lot of the smaller startups, you're nothing until you have something, and at times you get raked over the coals because your stuff goes down and you don't have those relationships. So how'd you guys build that?
Right. I mean, I think the key for us is the consistent weekly action, right? So at Rackspace in the early days, we were just a regular client. But we made a concerted effort to get to know Alan Bounds, who's no longer on our account. But Alan was awesome. He's an expert Windows sysadmin. We got to know him personally through the phone calls we're having, asking questions, finding out, where are you going on vacation? What are you doing? Like, trying to build a relationship. I mean, how does that scale out beyond dozens of developers? It's a lot harder. But that's what we did early on, things like that.
So at what rate did you grow from, zero?
Sales front. The first conference we went to was in March 2011. We had an opportunity, Dwayne had an opportunity to speak at a real estate conference, and we went and presented our MVP to the group, and we sold 40 people, 40 customers. Had we finished the product yet? No. Did we close some of those customers? Yes. Did we have to ask them if we could bill them every month? Can we bill you? No. Can we bill you this month? No. Finally, in August of 2011, we could bill 8 people, and 6 of them asked for a refund the next week. So there's a lot of challenges you begin to sell the product, but from that point in August of 2011, sales really kicked off into 2012, and things just kind of started snowballing. We actually didn't have inbound sales. Or sorry, we didn't have, everything was inbound, so no outbound sales to the company, up until probably a year ago. Does that answer your question?
One more question.
When you did your all hands employee meetings, how did you keep it at 15 minutes where you're hitting what's core for that day with your employees and your team?
Yes, so talking to the Rockefeller Habit, the principles, and I talked about it as a daily top 5.
The afternoon before the interview, and I would like to introduce Katie Christian. Katie, come on down. And as you're setting up the computer, yep, please, round of applause. Background on Katie. Katie Rogers Christian is known for a passion and eye for exceptional customer experiences, driving growth and scaling culture. She's morphed her time as a national championship rower and executive leading U.S. sales in a 5-star multinational organization to driving success within the ever-evolving SaaS community. In 2014, she joined SalesLoft via Twitter, right? Is that? Okay, good. As the 7th hire to create and scale the post-sales function. Katie's hired over 40 employees in the areas of support, training, and customer success. She's led her teams through 2 successful product launches, 1 a seamless sunset, and the other rapidly scaling from 2 million to 20 million in 2 years. Katie is a strategy seeker who's intentionally sassy. Today, you'll find her spreading sales love to customers and lofters as Vice President of Strategic Accounts. Fun fact, Katie was also the co-captain of the parliamentary debate team, so argue with caution. Let's give it up to Katie.
Hello everyone, can you hear me? We're good? I am Katie Christian. As John noted, I have started at SalesLoft in February of 2014, and it's been one amazing journey. And so over the past 5 months, I've been starting up a new initiative at the company as our VP of Strategic Accounts as the company's grown. But today I'm really here to talk to you about the past 4 years of building a customer success team from scratch. And so I hope it's just as insightful as it's been for me as hopefully what you learned today. So, right? From the lemonade stand, if you were a neighbor of mine back in the old days, 7-year-old Katie was selling lemonade to her neighbors, but it wasn't just the experience. And then I moved on to retail through high school and college, and it wasn't about just selling clothes. It was remembering the names of my customers and creating an experience for them if they were buying clothes for their children. What would they like? Getting to know them and their business. And so when I think about things that I've learned throughout my childhood in this sales experience, these are the things that are top of mind. Building trust. So whether I was walking that glass of lemonade 2 houses down to Mr. Smith, building conversations and learning about them. And then what they did was went and told other neighbors about that amazing glass of refreshing lemonade, or of the really cool clothes that we were providing as gifts and things and whatnot. So little did I know that these 3 words would really just detail my professional career. So a little bit about myself. Let's talk about SalesLoft. Me on the phone for about 2.5 hours, so that was quite the experience, and I'll say in the Tech Village. And so now we're over 260 lofters. Next Monday, we have about 15 new folks starting, and so we'll be at 275, which is just mind-blowing to me. And we bring on, and so I just get excited on Mondays because I know this whole new crowd is going to come around the corner, and I stand up and I wave, and they probably think I'm that crazy person that sells off, but it's just so exciting to be on this journey. So SalesOft started with Prospector. So when I first came on board, we had 72 customers, and we grew that product and successfully sunset that. Literally SalesOft today, which you may know of as SalesOft Cadence. And so that product has been growing 100% for the past 3 years, year over year. So just absolutely crazy growth from that perspective, and it's led to 120% net retention. So we've just scaled phenomenally, and the goal is to grow in the next 3 years to 100 million. So we've gone from 0 to 20 million roughly in about 3 years, and in the next 3 years we want to go to 100 million. So we've got lofty goals, pun intended, of course. But it's been, to get to this experience, one of the most rewarding, one of the most challenging experiences of my life. And when I think back to 4 years ago, sitting in the 3rd floor in our corner office and saying, how are we going to do this? What do I do next? I wish there was this. And so I'm just really excited to be here today to share with you all, because this didn't exist 4 years ago. And so I'm going to talk to you about customer success from scratch, literally. There was nothing there. It was an amazing CEO, Kyle, and a great co-founder, Rob Foreman, and they were really focused on bringing on new customers. Again, we had 72 at the time, and they just dumped it on me and said, here you go. And so little did I realize that I wouldn't be doing proactive customer success for a long time. I was in the trenches building this out. And so everything that I love that, but your customers will demand expectations of you, and it's up to you to rise to those occasions and really win them over. So we're going to talk about the evolution of customer success at SalesOft. I'm going to go through our idea stage, product market fit, and scale to show you the actions and really some of the hiring profiles, because I get asked a lot, Katie, when you're hiring for each of these to give you really actionable takeaways. I wrap up with one of my absolute favorite things, championing your customers. There's nothing better than that. I don't care what role you're in. We're in business to serve customers. And so we're going to talk about small little acts, things you can do without a budget, and things that you can do once you start to grow and have that budget that really create those lasting relationships. And so Kevin kind of set me up here. I feel like I've got a lot of tough things to live up to from a scaling perspective, but here we go. Before I dig in, so I don't want to assume the knowledge, but when you think of customer success, what comes to mind? Don't be sure. Results.
And hitting their objectives.
Say that one more time.
Then hitting their objectives.
Then hitting their objectives.
Renewals. Case studies.
Renewals, case studies. Referrals.
Solving problems.
Solving problems.
Success can mean different things to different clients.
Success can mean different things to different clients. Absolutely. So you can literally throw in the kitchen sink. No one said some of the sexier words like churn and downgrades and complaints. So surprised by that one. But customer success at SalesOft, yes, it's a department, but for us, it's a company initiative. And so what I want to just leave you with, as we go through this presentation, yes, I'm going to focus specifically on this department, but this should be a company initiative. And so on this, at SalesOft, we know how every role contributes to the customer experience, and we often highlight that in our All Hands on Friday. And so we talk about how product interacts with the customer, how our engineers are now sitting in on customer calls, and so we're all doing this for the customer. Let's remember that the phrase customer success isn't a department, it isn't a role, it should be that company initiative. And with that, I'm going to dig into that specific department, right? So, idea stage. I started in February of 2014, first person on the ground, 7th hire. And so some of the highlights, customer connection. So you actually had time to connect with those customers as they were coming on board and learning the nooks and crannies of their business, learning about their challenges, learning about areas that they just didn't know how to solve. And so that you have time. That's one thing I could stress. You have time. Take the time to learn about your customers. You have a core team. So it's probably going to be one of the only times that you're going to be able to sit right between your CEO and your COO. Bring them along that journey with you as the first CSM on the ground, the CS leader, whatever that may be. It's a rare opportunity. It's an exciting opportunity, but make sure you're bringing them with you. And then innovation. We were creating new ideas every single week, listening to our customers and innovating very quickly. And so don't be afraid of that change, embrace it, and really let your customers help you drive that post-sale. Because they bought from you, they have brilliant ideas, they understand that you are solving a pain in their business, but they probably have some better ideas on how you could approach certain things like potentially training or how you're supporting them and things of that nature. Let's talk about challenges. This is a real one. So at Sales Off, we went from 72 customers on my day one to ending the year with close to 450 customers. And that's just logos. And so we scaled so quickly in our first year. Customer acquisition, I could not keep up with sales. I simply couldn't. And so around that front, challenges were expectation setting. Our sales folks were, oh, we can do that. Of course we can do that. Has anyone ever had that happen? I'm the only one. Okay. Right? But of course we can do that. And then they'd come on over and I'd welcome them and I'm like, we can't do that. What do I do? So we went back to the sales team and say, hey, when we do this, here's the outcome. Can we try Y instead? And they go, yeah, that actually sounds really great. So it's just simple conversations that we need to have internally, and the sooner you start them, the better that relationship will be long term. And then it was the lack of process. When you're building something from scratch, you don't have process. And I'm getting a head nod, so someone's with me, right? You don't have it, and so you have to create it. And remember, it's not good is better than perfect. It's not going to be perfect. Nothing was beautiful in our first year when it came to CS, but it worked and the customers were open to it. Now, if I could go back and perfect and shine all those little things, that would be great, but that just wasn't the reality that we were living in. So you've got to be able to make moves. And then from an action standpoint, so when we talk about customers walking through our door very quickly, we weren't prepared from a process standpoint. So one of the first things I did, super tactical, but I just created a frequently asked questions guide. And I took our top 10 questions, wrote them out, and wrote the answers to them. Not only did I give that to our customers, but I gave that to our product team. We had one engineer, and then we had our co-founder who also did some coding. And I said, hey, these are the questions our customers are asking. And so every step of the way, it was serving customers, but also serving that feedback loop internally, which is so important. And what did they do with that? They made some changes to our product. And so I could remove 2 or 3 questions that were no longer customer challenges, which is so cool. It's so rewarding. We had one-to-one, Kyle and I, in the first year. I mean, we did one-to-one trainings for every single customer that we had. We would have, and I got another head nod, I love it. You're like my best friend right now. And so we were literally going from, who knows, 8 in the morning till really 8 at night, running customer calls. At some point, your voice gets a little scratchy, you need to slow it down. And so we started to think smarter because we knew that wasn't scaling and it was really impacting us. So we decided to pivot to group trainings. And so instead of running all of these calls all the time, we did Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays calls at 10 a.m. on the East Coast and at 4 p.m. for the West Coast. So it was really their afternoon. And customers could join at any time. Now for our more strategic accounts, our larger accounts at that time, they still got that one-to-one experience. But for most, they just wanted training. I don't know if you've ever sold and serviced to sales professionals. They're an interesting group, for lack of better words. And so they want things when they want them, and timing is very important. So when we set the expectations that we had these 3 trainings, really 6 trainings throughout the week, and they could hop on multiple, they loved that, they ate that up. And so from this experience, it's what are your customers' expectations, and do you really know who's buying from you, right? For sales, they want what they want, when they want it, and if you don't get it, they might go to Twitter and they might go to LinkedIn. And so just being mindful and learning, and how are you applying that to the business quickly? And again, good is better than perfect in this case. And last but not least, we started a monthly newsletter. So we were onboarding so many different customers, and we were learning a lot. There were a lot of like golden nuggets that we were finding, and we realized that with just me, and we ended the year at 3, we weren't able to share that with all of our customers, but through a newsletter we could. And so with our newsletter, we were reaching folks. We had a customer corner down at the bottom, so customers were sharing their best practices, and that goes to what Kevin said about embracing their hearts and engaging their minds. We did that from the very early days, and we just phrase it better now, to be honest. But we were connecting with them and sharing best practices, and of course, everybody wants their face in some type of newsletter, right? And so our sales folks were just eating that up. And so that's the idea stage. And when we think about hiring, here we are in front of our 3rd floor Atlanta Tech Village office. You've got myself in the middle. I had some stellar bangs back in the day, but you've got Allie Merritt on the left side. She is our Chief Customer Officer, and you've got Kara there. And so when you're thinking about hiring for the idea stage, whether it's you're hiring a CS leader as that very first hire, hiring customer success managers to get the job done, they should have an experience in creating something. Because if you walking into this for the very first time, it's going to be so difficult. So I had created multiple things, and Kyle actually made me articulate that over the phone. And then when I came to Atlanta, I said, you talked about creating your debate team and other projects. Walk me through that again. Show me how you did that. Can you draw that out? And so he was testing me to ensure that I would be able to, one, be able to think on my feet, deal with these problems in real time, but also bring that vision and be able to share it with others. And so it was really interesting. And the more that I talk to CEOs and co-founders about bringing their first CS function on, I always say, do they have experience creating something? I don't care what it is. It could be a small business. It could be creating a blog. It could be code, for all I know. The mindset to that is they'll think through problems. They'll be able to explain them. Be able to apply that at your business as well. Industry knowledge, I think I got lucky because I was in sales previous to sales ops. So I understood the sales persona. I knew what I thought I knew what I was walking into in servicing them, but I was able to pick up quickly on what demand gen was. And then furthering that, how do we go from lead to conversion to deal one? And so we're able to have these conversations around go-to-market strategies, and we've gotten further and further as we progress with the company, but I knew that. And so when you're thinking about hiring for your customer base, you're going to hear, oh, we need a CSM. And I'm going to say, no, you don't need a CSM. You need someone who understands your customers. And so that role might not be a customer success manager today. It might be a project manager. If you're selling to engineers, you might need an engineer who can speak to those engineers. And so think about the background that you're having. So whatever that industry knowledge is, ideally hire for that. And then, of course, all of that just speaks your customer language. So very early on, I was able to get on the phones, understand these sales executives and sometimes marketing executives, and really just dig deep with them. And because of that, the relationships instantly were bonded. And multiple of them are still customers today. And they're tweeting me, they're sending me messages. I just got married in January. I had gifts from them. I've known them for, 4.5 years now, and it's just crazy. And so when you have someone who can come in early and speak your customer's language, I think all of our presentations today have talked about strengthening the bonds with your customers. This is just the start, and you can start very early with that. All right, product market fit. This is where we started making some serious moves at SalesLoft. So I took our team of 3 and really brought it to 12. And so in this function, we were doing support, training, and I was going to say customer success. I think we had 1 or 2 folks that were actually proactively managing our largest customers. So as you're starting, you're not going to have CSM straight away truly having a proactive account management function in that. You're going to be all over the place. So we had support, we had training, and those were the 2 biggest pillars because our customers wanted things fixed quickly, and they wanted to be trained so that they could use the product. So the team was there. We actually had internal process as we brought on all those folks, so that was fantastic. We were learning, we were iterating, we were realizing what works best for us. Huge fan of Google spreadsheets. I know a lot of folks will say, no, don't like them. I love them, still to this day, even when we have the technology. And then customer learnings. We were talking to so many customers. The team was very large at the time, and so we would take those learnings every Wednesday and we'd have a lunch. And I'm pretty sure they only came because I bought them food. But we would sit down and I'd say, okay, what are our customers' biggest highlights from the past week? What are their biggest challenges? And how can we tackle them? And so we would take all of those customer learnings at lunch. Again, I'd send an email internally to our leadership, so that way they were aware of what the voice of the customer was saying. We put them in our newsletter, and then you'll start to see an action on the right-hand side where we had webinars to address some of those items. And so you've got that there. And then some of the early highlights were online reviews. So I know some people cringe when they think of online reviews, but at SalesLoft it was such an enjoyable experience when we got our first G2 crowd review. And everyone started freaking out, and of course I went and I knew exactly who it was, and I called them and I said, that was so awesome, thank you. He said, man, I just did that like 5 minutes ago. I said, man, you know I have Google Alerts on everything related to SalesLoft, let's be real. And so set Google Alerts for your business, that's a big one, and your names and all of that jazz. But we had some online reviews, and I got a really cool next slide that I'll show you in a second. But from this, We were growing and scaling so quickly. We had some really big challenges when it came to what is the right amount of customers to one CSM. And so every business is a little different. I know Jason Lemkin talks about that magic number of 2 million. For us in the very early stages, that just didn't scale. Our deal size was just way too small, and our poor CSMs. I strived for that 2 million. It didn't work. It led to burnout. And so just be realistic about what you want that experience to be and think, can someone really manage X amount of customers? How would I do that as their leader? Put yourself in their shoes. Renewal process. So we had month-to-month contracts when we first started renewals. When you're a startup, they say, hey, here's the business challenge. Not the customer challenge, the business challenge. We have renewals, they're coming up, what do you think we should do? Because I could easily get in and say, hey everyone, here's the one pager, here's what we're gonna do, here's the renewal strategy. I'd bring them along with the journey. And so I'd say, here's the challenge, what does this look like? And they throw out ideas out there. And then I'd incorporate their ideas into my one pager. And then when I rolled that one pager out to them, they could see themselves in that. And they adopted it. And it was so smooth of a rollout. And it really, really works. So as you're creating new strategies, and you're not always going to be able to do that, but the more you can bring some of the early team members into it, and they can see themselves as a part of that change, you're really going to be able to move a lot faster. Early churn, because we didn't have a renewals process, we weren't handling it correctly. And then social posts. So as much as I loved those online reviews, people went out on Twitter when we weren't getting back to them within 20 to 30 minutes. And so then I'd say, the average first response time in SaaS is pretty reasonable, right? But they got used to the SalesLoft experience of me and Allie being on. And so actions. We created an internal training guide. And I love that Pete brought this up. He had his playbook. So before day one, he could send this out to his new. So we had a playbook, an internal training guide. And again, the team helped create that. And they helped try side and train the others. And so think of that as you're scaling. Does it always have to be you? Is that the best use of your time? I'm sure there are golden moments in that where it has to be you, but you've hired people for a reason. Let them train it to be pretty sexy. It's one of those things where it's like you want to understand what's going on, why they're leaving, executing this vision. And so for our SME customers, which were primarily the base that was churning, we did a survey. We did an initial survey, we got on the phones, we understood why they were leaving. We didn't leave it just at the survey and emails, we called. We made it a meaningful experience because we really cared about why they left. And so on that, calling me, and it's not just a survey, you're following up on exactly what I wrote in your survey. It was like it was a foreign experience and they didn't expect that. And so we often talk about how product is a competitive feature for you. Your customer experience is a competitive feature. How you engage with those customers is a competitive feature. So are you sending a survey? What do you do? If they're writing a survey and they give you some really fantastic insights that you just hadn't experienced, you call insights, take it, run with it for as long as you can. My company previous to SalesLoft would pay customers for their time and their insights. And here I was at this startup where they were willing to hop on my calendar. It's just mind-blowing, right? And then we started customer webinars. So took that newsletter where we had that customer corner, and we morphed that into a webinar because our customers really enjoyed that so much. And so we moved that to a month verse again and again, sharing best practices, how to use your product in different ways. And again, you have the social posts that go on about that. Those are bonds that you have forever. And it was really exciting. So product market fit, hiring. Oh, just kidding. This is our G2 rating. And so this was the summer of 2015, and we were on, I think at this point, the 4th floor. We had the wing, and I was running up and down the hallways with my laptop just like this, and saying, look at me, look at this, look what happened. SalesLoft was ranked highest SMB product. And so can we talk about the logos right here? Y'all looking at that? Who do you see? I see Slack, I see HubSpot, Adobe, what? And so we were so proud, and at this point in time, this was just our customers going to G2 on their own. I didn't even know that you could drive them to G2 at that time. So this was all organic based off of the customer experience. So Kevin talked about being early, you have to create that brand and you have to stand out. Once you stand out, your customers will do brilliant things if you're servicing them in the right way, like go to G2 and help you stand out even more. The team, it just grew, and not everyone's in this photo, but I did some really cheesy things a lot of the time. and I think they liked it, like taking them out and buying them sombreros and mustaches and whatnot. But around product market fit, the biggest thing was hiring Jacks and Janes of all trades. We were growing so incredibly fast that we really believed that no job was too big or too small for them. There's such a strong mentality of customer service and customer experience, and maybe they didn't have all the experience in the world, but they had a passion for serving, and that was very important to SalesLoft. And so here I say communication times 3. So what I mean by that is, can they communicate with your customers? And so as you're thinking about hiring them, what type of assessments or tests are you putting them through? I would give them actual one-pager with 3 or 4 questions that were actual support tickets that our customers had sent in, and I'd ask them to answer it. I wanted to see their approach, how they engaged with the customer, and how they detailed the response, whether it was technical or not. And a lot of people either did the assessment or they didn't do it, and that said a lot, right? But those who did the assessment and took their time, I could understand how they would approach our customers once they were on board. So that was a big one. The second one was, how do they communicate with their peers? So we did culture interviews, and that was a really big one. As this team, I've got a lot of head nods, we were straight up storming. And so the team needed to be aligned. And so the second one was, how are we engaging together as a group, as a customer success group? You're seeing a trend here at all? Feedback internally as a group, feedback to our customers, and feedback back to the company. In each of the stages, it was so critically important for me to ensure that our customers were heard, the team was heard, and that the company understood all of it. All right, here we go. At the beginning of 2017, we completely reorged the services component at SalesLoft. And customer success now reported to a VP of services. I understood the technical capabilities of our product. Implementation was really focused on jump-starting our customers and integrating deeply with their Salesforce environments. That's just not my cup of tea. And so there's no shame in that. And so I think from a leadership perspective, knowing where you thrive, but also knowing where your weaknesses are, hire for that, and then be okay with letting someone else thrive in that area. It's going to make the company 10 times better. And so reorg, I went deep on customer success. We segmented the team, so we moved everything to SMB, commercial, and enterprise. So everyone had their lane where they were thriving, and we could really learn the best practices of that specific segment. Experienced hires, so we got some funding, and in that we could hire some folks who had actually worked in SaaS before, who had worked in customer success programs, and we were able to bring that to our team, and it helped us elevate and get even better. And then we had that churn reduction. By doing that churn, and serious results in that, and more often than not, it actually led us to retaining more customers and expanding them. Challenges, product innovation. So I think Kevin showed you a slide that said we released a feature every single week in 2017. That was amazing. So we really focused on feature adoption. And what was the best way to go about releasing a feature every single week? How do you communicate that? What do you do? And then we expanded, and what we learned very quickly was, this is a whole new ballgame. It's exciting. The challenges are different though, and the expectations for the customer experience have evolved. How do we level up and try to get ahead? Actions, we revamped our customer journey based team, as I said, and then we implemented our health scores. And that was something that, again, we probably should have done that sooner. Enterprise doesn't work for SMB. And that's the customer success team. The SalesLoft Services org is probably old picture, but this was at our Christmas party, our holiday party, and I asked them all to wear ugly sweaters. And of course, again, that corny thing comes through, but they eat it up. And so when you're thinking about scale hiring, I really started to look for folks with SaaS experience who had been through this before. And renewals experience. Again, that renewals challenge is very real, especially as you grow up market. Put that professional polish on them. Now I could hire for that, which was really awesome, and they came in from day one with it, and it really helped elevate the rest of the team. And then last but not least, I asked for customer references. So for those folks who were a little bit more experienced, do they have customers who could back up their referrals? It's a great place to start. But would someone be willing to speak on their behalf as a customer? And that's been a fun journey as well. So Sales Love is something I wrote on a village wall, I think February of 2015, and little did I know. But in that, when I hear from our customers, I often hear, well, we don't have the budget to do the things that you all do. and I say, we're awarded for the Battery Ventures Award. So we literally just created a video. We took as many people as we could, got them into a hallway, created a video, and then we shared that on Twitter. Maybe that took 10 minutes of time from everyone, and maybe a few more folks in marketing, maybe 20 minutes. That's worth it. It went out on the web, and we got so many folks sending letters, snail mail. Making a comeback. If you don't know that, now you know. 30 minutes, I would get sales off note cards. I put stamps on them and say, you have to come with a name, an address, and a note for your customer, and I'll take care of everything else. And so they'd come and drop it in the little buckets that you see there, and we would also do swag. But again, it's their time, and we would cover the cost. Then when you do get a little bit of a budget, some cool things that you can do, of course, you see the t-shirts there. T-shirts are great. I love them. Our customers do love them as well from a sales side. So, but you have to remember, do what works for your customer base. Not everybody's going to love a t-shirt, right? This right-hand side is super cool, and it's something we just started to do. It's a sticker. And so if you look at laptops, what's the new thing? Stickers. My laptop is still clear from that standpoint. But this is a sticker for Boston. So we're having customers rep us in their hood, if you will. And so we have Boston skyline, we have the Atlanta skyline, San Francisco, Chicago. And so they're able to rep us where they are, and we've created community groups around that. So they get exclusive swag based on their city. And again, these are little things that they're doing that they're eating up. And how much does a sticker cost? I don't even know. Where's Kevin? Stickers, how much?
$1.36.
There you go, $1.36, right? So I don't want to, yeah, there you go, $500. There is no excuse for not being intentional about your customer experience. You can do things that don't cost a lot of money, or you can do things that do cost a lot of money, like a food truck. Wait on that. Don't do it in your first year. Get some momentum under your belt, customer, and more customers will revolve around you. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, we ate a little bit into the questions time, so we're going to pass the questions, and hopefully during the happy hour you'll be around and can ask individual questions. We want to take a 10-minute break and interview with Scott. Whole story. Thank you so much, and y'all enjoy your break. We'll be back in 10 minutes. Thank you.
I got the camera. I've unplugged it at the moment. I'm recharging batteries. But I could set up 9 different presets and click from shot to shot to shot.
Because Mevo's got those little frames they put in there.
It's a 4K camera with any given shot being 1080p. have a live event that I filmed that I did a couple of months ago. I brought his camera
Yeah, so what I'm absolutely actually, what he does is he has an application. You can actually bring the video from So I have it live interactive. Yeah, it's definitely
Hey, I was just slacking you. Yeah? Yeah. Hi, good. How you been? Good stuff so far. Yeah, I mean... Not like in the way that we portray, but you know, you're trying. Staying out there.
Excuse me.
I'd like to talk to you more about this. Yeah, that definitely helps communicate So are you helping, have been helping with them from a sales enablement perspective in the past? Yes. Now someone else. I did, yeah. I wanted to make sure that I applied for it for Vince. Like it right now, is it Jeremy? Yes, I did reach out to him.
All right, let's get started here. We've got the main interview and event.
That should be good. I guess Scott's here.
I believe Scott Boyd's in the building.
Oh, good. I see him. Made it through traffic.
You know this? Hey, how you doing?
Office is like 2 miles away.
All right.
You know.
How good were those presentations? Very, very good. Really appreciate everyone's time. Hey, Scott. Great to see you, sir. Good to see you. DC? All right, well, as Scott enters the arena, we'd like to give him a warm round of applause. Scott, thanks so much. I'm going to quickly read his bio. Yeah, oh yeah, it's coming. Scott believes everyone deserves a more perfect customer experience. With this in mind, he and a few folks much smarter than himself started Full Story, a radically new type of web, really, to explore user data. A tiny web technology company that was acquired by Google. So there's a fabric there. He also spent some time at Nora Mosley Partners, the Southeast's oldest and largest venture capital firm. The Georgia Tech and Wharton MBA school, our grads found a love of lacrosse later in life, which is interesting. He coaches 2 youth teams to keep his skills sharp. Scott plays in an old guy lacrosse league. Seriously, details can be found at oldguylacrosse.com. Let's welcome Scott. Thank you so much. Take it away, David.
All right, so I love interviewing entrepreneurs and hearing their story. And so the first question is always, give us the current elevator pitch for Full Story today.
I think the operative word there is current, because I don't know if other entrepreneurs know this, you're always workshopping some new variant of the pitch. Last week's variant was, if I was at a birthday party of 9-year-olds, I would say that we make the web less frustrating for people. And I actually stole part of that from my good friend Melanie Chrissy. The more detailed version of that is that Full Story is John sort of evoked with a very simple web script. We record everything. I like to say no company records more data per user visit than Full Story. I can say this with confidence because we record all, and you cannot have more than all. All right, so you have a big pile of data, Scott. What do you do with it? Well, we are fortunate to have this really smart group of ex-Google engineers, and we sort of took a playbook from Google to say, let's take this pile of data, let's index it in a way that anyone within a business that needs to understand interaction about the customer can quickly find it. They can quickly understand exactly what is going on, and that means high-level analytics and high-fidelity playback. You can settle any bet you want by saying, look, this is exactly what the user was doing. You can then understand that pattern of behavior in order to really just set and monitor something. So I want to know what my conversion rate looks like, and if it ever dips from 50% to 40%, tell me immediately. So then I can go back in and understand what happened and repeat that pattern over and over again. And that's not just a proposition for a web analytics department or a product management department. Our goal really is to empower everyone with a stake in customer experience. And that's support people, and that's engineers, and that's product managers, and that's marketers, and that's salespeople, and that's customer success people. And so far so good. We've got about 2,500 paying customers to date. We have many thousand more free customers, and they're sort of using it in that capacity. So that was longer than an elevator pitch again, but it could be a tall building.
Like the Salesforce Tower.
Yeah, like the Salesforce Tower. Yeah, that's right.
So we all love the successful entrepreneur, everything's working great, tons of money in the bank, thousands of paying customers.
Yeah.
But we all know that it's not a straight line path to success.
No, it's definitely not, and let's caveat the word success, right? Like, don't confuse raising money with success. Nobody is excited when you refinance your house, right? So, yeah, we're not successful yet.
So, Full Story is not the original name of the business. There's a backstory here that involved monetology. Tell us about that initial part of the journey.
Yeah, moneology, sometimes people would say. So let's see. So I'm going to walk it all the way back to 2005. And in 2005, I was down at the ATDC. Right? Remember that thing, the ATDC, before you started this? We were down there. I had this cube. I was working in a cube. In the cube next to me were these two brilliant computer science entrepreneurs, and they were working on a company, and I was working on a company. And we'd go to Moe's every day, and we just kind of, like, I was the business guy, and they were the computer guy. I eventually joined those two guys and went to work for them. And then in a very fortunate turn of events, we hit Google's radar. Google came in and acquired that company. My partners, Bruce and Joel, went on to go lead that Google engineering office. I went to this company, Silverpop, and was jealous that we didn't get to work together for very long. So every year, you know, once a quarter, I'm pinging this, guys, hey, have you Google, you still want to be there? Let's do something new, let's do something new. 7 years later, we all quit our day jobs, and we really didn't have a clear idea of what we wanted to do. I know a lot of entrepreneurs get going saying, this is my vision for the world, this is the pain that we're going to solve. That was not how we got going. It was really, we wanted to start a company, and we liked working with each other, and we'll kind of try to figure that out. I had some ideas based on my time at Silverpop, some opportunities in the marketing area. These were not super crisp ideas. These were pains I had come up with. And so day one of the company, I kid you not, I went to the Google office. I picked them up. They had their boxes in the hand. They got right in the car, and we drove down to the beach. And we were going to do a 3-day offsite to talk about, you know, what's this new company going to be. And we're a very goal-minded group. One of the goals of that car ride was to do a pre-mortem. Why did the company fail? And let's tear through that. Let's get all of that out of the way so when those things arise, we'll know how to deal with them. The other thing we had was we were going to name the company. And let me tell you, trying to name a company in 3 days is not probably a recipe for success. So we had all of these lists of all of these names. One of them was, what was the name of the site? Because I remember sending it to
Brand Bucket.
Brand Bucket. Yeah, we found the site Brand Bucket, where you could buy decent.coms. We really wanted a .com. I think this was pre.io. And so we found monetology as a name. We were like, well, monetology kind of sounds like money, and we want to make money. So yeah, let's do that. And we named it monetology. We got to work on the idea that I was kicking around in my head, which was basically agile development was a thing. And there were some software companies, Rally, version 1. These were companies that had made a go of supporting agile product development. I sort of felt like marketing was completely chaotic. There could be this thing, agile marketing. We could build some tools similar to Rally to help support that. This was not a particularly good idea, quite honestly, but we went ahead and built it anyway. And I don't know how long of a story you want here.
No, this is good.
Okay, you let me know if you just kind of make a noise. We got to work on this product that was kind of building agile marketing software. As we're building that, about 3 months into the life of the company, Google ended up closing that Google engineering office here in Atlanta. And so we had this opportunity to go get some of Bruce's old colleagues and bring them to work for us, which was a crazy idea. Like, we weren't venture-backed, we were funding this out of our pocket, but one of the things I've come to really believe is anytime you can get an opportunistic hire, you do it, right? Hire good people anytime you can, even if you don't have the money. That has served us well, and I have only regretted passing on people where we were being too conservative, and they were great people, and so just lesson learned there. Where is it? So we ended up hiring 4 of our colleagues and starting to work on this product, and we were trying to like pay the rent. We ended up moving into MailChimp for a little while. There was a sub-chapter there. We launched this product. We couldn't call the product Monetology because everybody just thought that was a horrible name. So Monetology became the name of the LLC. We launched this product, Homebase, homebase.io. I guess IO was ready at that point in time. And what happened was we got some people using the product. Maybe somebody in this room used Homebase. And we would see this pattern of behavior where engagement would look like this, and it would kind of turn, and then it would go down. And sometimes it would kind of streak up and streak down, and sometimes it was low, and we kept asking ourselves, what is going on in this product that we can't see? Like, I just want to understand what they're doing in the product. And the paradigm of the day was Google Analytics or Mixpanel or Omniture, where you really had to instrument events, right? If somebody clicked on this button, go put some code next to this button to phone home, log an event. We can look at a chart or a graph to understand engagement. And that got us thinking about a couple things. I mean, one, we were not sleeping at night. We knew something was wrong in that product, and maybe this wasn't the right product, and that's a really hard place to be. But how we could answer that set of questions for that product led us to the idea that eventually became Full Story.
How important was the MailChimp consulting relationship in figuring that out?
It was, it's a good question. So in a way, it was helpful. The MailChimp consulting agreement gave us the life to give us time to figure it out. It was helpful in that we were doing, basically what we did, there were 7 of us, 8 of us. We would rent 2 of ourselves to MailChimp full-time to do whatever consulting project they wanted, and the rest of us would work on the product. Some of the work we were doing for MailChimp at the time was related to their customer support stuff, and they've got a ton of customers, and they got a ton of support stuff. And we would ask them some probing questions about how you're understanding what your customers are doing in their product. And it turns out they were really facing the same set of challenges we were with our product. I'm like, gosh, if MailChimp is struggling with this, and we're struggling with this, maybe other people are. And so we actually put together a minimum viable product pitch deck. And I've walked around the halls here before it was even done, and remember pitching SalesLoft, CallRail, gosh, who else? Hubert, I remember pitching Hubert and Melanie. And I set out this problem statement. How do you understand what your customers are doing? How do you know whether your customers are frustrated? If these are problems for you, here's an image of what this product might look like. And I would end it with, we're building it now, and I'm charging, and I was just going to pause, $150 a month for it. Would you buy it? And they were like, yeah, of course, $150. And that was the big difference for us. It's like hearing people would pay for it was enough for us to call it.
So let's dig into Homebase.io just a little bit more. Because I know there's a lot of lessons to be learned there. How did you identify that it was a nice to have? You talked about, obviously you had some early traction and then the usage would drop off. Are there other indicators or other signs that it wasn't going to work?
There's so many indicators, and it was the hardest thing to come to grips with, because when you're starting a company, you're told, because you read it all the time, it's going to be hard, and people are going to tell you this thing isn't going to work. And knowing whether they're right or you're right is a really, really hard thing to do, because, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm going to persevere through all of their challenges.
I have an MBA.
I have an MBA. I mean, certainly I'm smart.
From the president.
The president, I knew you were going to say it. I mean, yeah, that's well up into the microphone. Yeah, so there was one anecdote, just to really paint the picture. We tried to raise money on Homebase, and we had...
You pitched me, and I passed, and I shouldn't have passed.
I think you put just a ridiculous offer in front of me, as I recall. There was an email. I'll dig it up.
Passed, because I didn't like the idea.
Maybe you passed.
I shouldn't have passed.
Maybe you found the person. There was some, maybe it was full story anyway, we don't have to. I would have passed too. Every venture person in the world passed on it. Fortunately for us, because if we had accidentally raised money on it, we would have felt stuck to it, and we wouldn't have felt like we could pivot. So again, MailChimp helpful there. We got every meeting with every venture company we could want to, because we have a good lawyer, and he has good connections, and the Google credibility team was enough to get us in the door. And I remember meeting with this very famous venture guy that has a very famous SaaS blog, and he's British. And we did our pitch. We showed
He's got a good first name, too.
He's got a good first name. He does, yes. And he's got a brother out there, and so we probably narrow it down. And he said, gentlemen, and he walked up to the whiteboard after we had done our pitch. Let me say, it's rare we see a team this good. It's rare. I'm going to give you an A. All right, we got that. This was one of our first pitches, by the way. The market you're talking about, it's marketing. It's a fantastic market. It's a huge opportunity. Marketing automation is on the rise. I'm going to give that an A. Yes. Your product, your idea, it's rubbish. It's absolutely horrible. I will give you money not to work on this idea. I mean, it was almost that strong. I kid you not, it was almost that strong. And we were like, yeah, that guy doesn't get it. I mean, he totally got it. He was right. Workflow software is a horribly difficult category of software. And we didn't know. Advice back to entrepreneurs is, listen to good advisors, and if they're telling you it's a bad idea, it's probably a bad idea.
So we were having a dinner one night around Venture Atlanta, and Scott was sharing some of the stories of going from Homebase to this potential pivot. And he looked over and he said, hey, there's a domain out there that's for sale. We have thefullstory.com, and I can buy fullstory.com for 20 grand. Should I buy that domain? And then he immediately said, don't go buy it first.
Because you could.
Was it worth paying the 20 grand?
Oh, I actually ended up paying 30 grand for it.
Paid 30 grand for the domain.
It was the best money I've ever spent, ever. Because it just, it lent a level of credibility beyond us. In fact, the first thing that we did when we raised our seed round, I had been in negotiations for that domain with the guy. It's like a famous internet broker. And if he had got wind that we were a funded venture company, it would have immediately gone from 20 grand to 200 grand. So I was so scared that was going to happen. I had my fake Gmail account and all of those things. And so it came in and got it.
Awesome. So you decided to pivot from homebase.io to Full Story.
Yes.
You've got the domain name.
Well, we were the Full Story for a little while. We had done the pivot.
Full Story, for a little while.
And Full Story.io, we had that too.
And Full Story.io. What was the next step in the business? How did you get those first 10 paying customers?
I think we had some of those first 10 simply from the pitch deck that we were doing, because we leaned into that problem minimum viable deck very aggressively to say, we are building this thing right now. And we will deliver it to you on such and such a date. And so we said we would not have a free customer for that when we went out of the gate. One of the things Homebase was, by the way, was free. It was a free tool. And I can't say that there is no one right path, mind you. I strongly believe that. So you do you. But I think that starting with free and then going to paid is a harder route. And you can fool yourself. We did start with a low price point and get some skin in the game, and then you can always backfill into free if you want to. But we had a customer before we even launched it.
And so when you say a customer, is that somebody that verbally said they're going to use it, or did they actually sign some agreement?
Yeah, I mean, it was a handshake. I felt good about it. And it played out right. Yeah, it was. And so I think we went, the day we launched was the day that that customer started paying us. Like we made that credit card transaction go through before we turned it on, which was kind of cool, just so we could feel like we were getting paid for it. And then it was me just going around town for the most part, quietly getting customers. My good friend Rigger, my good friends at Sales Loft, et cetera, using Full Story before we did a real launch. So we, on the back of, let's call it 10 to 20 paying customers, not paying much, mind you, but they were paying us. The product, the team, we were able to go raise a seed round with Tom Noonan and Google Ventures, and that was just a quick seed round. I don't even think we had to get on a plane with Google Ventures to get that seed round done. And then we launched it. We had our TechCrunch moment. It was kind of open, try to buy at that point, and it just started working. I mean, that's not to say it's just kept working, but the curve, that was when the curve really started to make the right move.
So early on, you had a key sales hire, a gentleman near and dear to my heart, Derek Grant.
It's great.
He was one of the best sales leaders that I've ever met and had a chance to work with at Pardot, now at Sales Loft, and in between at Full Story.
Yep.
And so from a strategy point of view, you initially wanted to use salespeople and acquire customers with more of a outbound and inbound strategy, and then you wanted to go more self-service for a while and then come back around to a mix of the both. So talk through some of that thought process and what you learned.
Yeah. So to say that we actually knew what we wanted is probably overstating it. Like we had a bunch of ideas, and we knew the typical software as a service playbook was, I have a fantastic VP of sales, which we were able to do, and go to market with that playbook over and over again. We were a bit of an interesting organization because I think sort of the beginning soul of the company was really product centric. Go back to the 8 founders of the company. 6 of them were hardcore engineers. 1 was a designer and 1 was me. And so I was the only person that I think had ever carried a sales bag ever. And I think layering in sales too early for us was a lesson learned, because the go-to-market approach we wanted to emulate, right, wrong, or indifferent. We looked at companies like ExactTarget, we looked at Zendesk, we looked at New Relic, this idea of let people try it, let people buy it, get a good base of customers. Like we wanted lots and lots of customers, and we can refine our product by having lots and lots of customers. We know the use cases, we'll hear it from our customers, word of mouth will start to kick in because people are liking the product we're building, they'll change jobs, they'll take their tools with them. For all of those reasons, that was always what we wanted from the beginning. And as you know, there can quickly be a natural tension between sales, who needs to carry a number at a higher price point, and a product that is public at a low price point. And we ran into that tension almost immediately. And I think we got to the point where it was just, Derek saw it, we saw it, where it was like, we're just not ready for this yet. We need to cut our teeth further and get more customers under belt, find the soul of this product, and then we will continue to inch upstream as the product is better suited for that. I think the other thing that is unique to Full Story is we catch a whole bunch of data. And we were still working out how to deal with that story in bigger customers with deeper pockets who were like, how much data are you getting, and how are you going to protect this, and who are you guys? And I just think there's a long cycle there. Since then, we definitely have leaned into sales.
And so from a go-to-market point of view, obviously you have sales reps, you have inbound leads, presumably.
Yes.
How important has the word of mouth, the second order of revenue been at this stage of the business? So getting people that go from one job to the next and then buy at the next company.
Yeah, I mean, it's been crucial for the success, and I would say it still carries a bulk of our revenue. Probably like a majority of our revenue still comes from people that had tried the product and bought the product without sales intervention. We only really leaned into sales in May of last year. I would say we had a couple guys that were doing some things. I was running sales cycles when we could, but we hired a VP of sales in May of last year and started building out something that looks much more traditional. SDR team, inside sales organization, experimenting with outside, getting on planes, that's what.
So you raised money from Kleiner Perkins, one of the most famous venture firms of all time. And so presumably to raise money from one of the most successful firms of all time, you had to paint a really big vision.
Yeah.
A really big total addressable market, something that can be a large, meaningful company.
Yes.
What is that vision? What is that market? What can this thing become?
Well, I mean, it's big. So let's start with how many companies care about the digital experience, both web and native mobile, right? There are a lot. Okay, that's good. How do they care about that today, and whose budget can I go and get? One thing that we've seen, and we've been able to ride on the backs of, and you are seeing sort of a new emergence. Actually, I'll take half a step back. Remember in the email days, I know you remember this, is there was email marketing, which was a nice, healthy industry. There was web analytics, and there was landing pages. And in between was sort of the swirling of companies that found an interesting superset of those features aimed specifically at B2B companies, right? And there was a new set of buyers, a new set of budget. It created a new industry. So as we see it today, product teams in both e-commerce companies and SaaS companies, there is that swirling, right? They've got some analytics tools over there that help them a little bit. There's some UX tools that help them a little bit. They haven't traditionally had a huge budget with those tools, but that is starting to happen now, where product managers, VPs of products, customer experience is becoming a buying center in the organization. We get to go capitalize on that, and the venture guys appreciate that. The venture firms are so sophisticated now, they're tracking spaces that they see potential in, and they think the product center is a good one. I agree with them. But as you look at it, in the big picture, right, full story, again, more data than anybody else out there. Our customers are adding additional information to that database, usernames and customer IDs and customer segments. It's in a very searchable, Google-like index that is accessible not just to one department, but multiple departments around the organization. So whose budget do we start to chip away at? Well, over time, traditional web analytics is something you start to be able to see. I mean, the paradigm of having to instrument events in EVARs seems absolutely bananas to me. We think true analysts want to be in a BI tool on top of a data warehouse. Great. Full Story has a data export edition. We're the fastest way for you to get big data in your database, and your digital team can go do what they want to. What about everybody else that kind of logs into Google Analytics occasionally? There's Full Story. It has all the answers available for you. That's pretty interesting. You look at lots of other areas. There's applications performance monitoring. Now, I'm not going to say we're getting here tomorrow, but over time you look at it and say, who has the best insight into what's going on in the client? Well, again, we got more data than anybody else. We're collecting all of the sorts of things like errors and timing events in JavaScript, wonkiness. There's a great thing there. Then you start to pan back a little bit and you just look at, take e-commerce companies alone. and go back, we were at a customer a couple weeks ago, big customer, and they said, prior to Full Story, our revenue dipped from 50% to 40% in it for one day. It cost us millions, and we have no idea when that happened. None. Okay, well, Full Story is not far away from letting you just monitor that information. You see a dip, we tell you that there's a dip. But then, because we have all of this data and we start to monitor all the heuristics that could lead into that differential, we've got these kind of goofy marketing names, but very, very powerful concepts in Full Story today, where we look at the heuristics of what a user is doing. We've got something we call a rage click, where a user is just hammering on the mouse in frustration over and over again, right? I guess we blew the microphone, guys. You're up. We can look at rage clicks and mouse thrashing and errors on page and page load time and JavaScript wonkiness on this browser from Georgia, and then when revenue dips and something over there spikes, we're telling that team, go right there, and you'll see exactly what got wrong so you can fix it. And then you take it a step further, and you start to see those patterns across customers to say, this is creeping up, do something before it starts to impact. And that's true.
And powerful.
It's powerful.
So you go and you pitch Kleiner Perkins, and they say, oh, this is amazing, here's a check? Or is it a lot of back and forth and a lot of educating them on what the TAM could be and what the opportunity is, or did they get it pretty quickly?
Yeah, it went pretty quickly. We were fortunate. We had some good advice on how to run a process, which was, so I told you the story about when we went out the first time, we were just complete clowns. We had no idea what we were doing, and we learned from that first experience how to do it the next time. You know, we ran a process, we had the pitch down, we got the horses on the track, we tried to tell the horses where the other horses were, and in that world, if one horse moves to the lead, other horses try to catch up in a hurry. And yeah, I mean, Kleiner in particular, I grew up in the venture age. I'm older, and you know, John Doerr was like the coolest guy. If you had baseball cards for venture capitalists, if that was a thing, like I would want the John Doerr rookie card. That was just like the coolest. And when we got to pitch Kleiner Perkins, and John was in the room, and you know, a little sidebar story, we had a couple term sheets already, and we felt pretty good about where we were. We thought that Kleiner was a little bit behind in the process. We didn't think that they were going to get there in time. And so there was some time left over in the meeting, and nobody had any questions. And one of the things we did hear a few times is, what about Atlanta? I mean, is that going to be a problem? And we always addressed it. We feel good about our Atlanta story. But I said to the room at Kleiner, I was like, so we've got some time left. Are there any questions? Do you want to talk about the Atlanta thing? And John slapped the table and said, we love doing deals in Atlanta. And it was like, that was cool. That was just a saver moment for us. But it went fairly quickly.
That's awesome. So you raised the money, continue to expand the team. What's been some of your latest challenges with the business? What are some of the things that are top of mind today?
Yeah, that's good. So we accomplished a ton last year. That was a big year for us. And I think we are now considered a growth company, which was not something that I was aware was a thing and really prepared for. Like, that it was so clearly categorized in a way where there's a different set of investors that are paying attention to you, and rightfully there is a different set of challenges for your business that show up when you hit this growth stage of the business. It was, you know, to paint a picture, the beginning of the year, truly it was like January 6th. You know, everybody had been on holiday. We came back. All right, let's get the year going. What are we going to do? And my energy level was just super low. And my partner, Bruce's energy level was also low. We were just super flat on that first day back. Well, let's just go to lunch. And we went to lunch and we started talking it out. And I think we had played the role of, you know, venture, sort of this company trying to make a go of something, to make some fire and get something going so long that we had done that, there was this minor identity crisis on what our job was anymore. Because our job used to be all the jobs. We would just run around in any fire we put out, sell this, that. And we realized we had to evolve our own thinking of our own role as the company stepped into this new phase. I know that sounds like a high-level thing, but it's for real, man. So one of our annual objectives for the years we run OKRs was, I'm trying to think exactly how we phrased it, operate as a wannabe public company, is what we said. We can't predict whether we're going to be a public company at any point, but we know that we can start to pretend that we want to be one. And that was really as much about Bruce and I saying, what would we have to do in order to pretend we were the guys on the quarterly calls? What sort of measurements do we need in place? What sort of management structure do we need in place? And that gave us a new set of challenges that got us energized about the year ahead. So now we're doing all of those things, and it is an entirely new set of challenges. Like the organizational, I think we just got to about 100 people, and there's just this huge inflection when you hit 100 people in terms of...
It's strange, right? When you walk down the hall,
it's like,
and you see somebody that you've seen him or her before, but you don't remember their name, but they work for you.
Yeah. I didn't interview that person. Did somebody interview that person?
It's very strange.
I hate it. It's strange, and I hate it because I loved the familyness of it. So I'm trying to figure out how we can continue to propagate that.
All right, so the next question is a really tough one. Privacy has been in the news for a long time now, GDPR. I know full story because it captures all the information. Might or might not capture some stuff that might or might not be privacy related. What's the current thinking and strategy?
Well, I should have said, yeah, we catch all the information, but with a huge caveat. Nothing you don't want us to collect, right? So there's an easy mechanism to exclude any sensitive information, but that just doesn't sound as good when hand waving about everything, to put that caveat. So actually GDPR is something that probably lots of people in the room are dealing with. We looked at GDPR in Q4 of last year, knowing that it was coming. We have lots of European and other nations outside of Europe that are asking those questions. We looked at it as here is an opportunity for us to put some distance between us and our competitors. Right? So for us, that takes the form of technology. We're a bunch of product people at heart. We look at how can our product help solve that problem. And so without going into painstaking details, we created some interesting API hooks that will let us record information, but upon getting consent, actually then start to record the information. So it's sort of an interesting, nuanced way of doing it that we can now, when we're in a competitive situation, say, look, we're thinking about GDPR on multiple levels. Of course, you can exclude sensitive information. We don't want it. But when it comes to consent, that's something you need to think about. We've got a technical answer to that. So then we start to put marketing information out there about that. So the next time somebody Googles session replay GDPR, full story is top of the stack, and we can feel good about that story. Okay, so that's GDPR. But privacy, we actually feel GDPR is a good thing, believe it or not. I think that the web got a little ahead of itself on all the data mining and stuff like that. To be crystal clear, we're collecting data, but we are not, our customers are not allowed to share that data in any way that would not be in their users' best interests. We've got this fantastic acceptable use policy. It really is worth a read, believe it or not. It's not very legally. And it calls it out specifically. Full story is for good and for improving your customer's experience. This is not for harvesting data in some sort of evil way to put it on an ad exchange. We think most of the GDPR stuff is really aimed around that. And so we lean into the privacy stuff. We do not want our customers collecting information that their customers don't want them to have. We think our customers should be proud of the fact that they are recording all of the information with the proper guardrails and procedures in place in order to improve customer experience. We had some customer tweet something the other day. I assume it was a customer that said something along the lines of, wouldn't it be a great world if every company had full story on its site? Because just the web experience would be so much better. That's the spirit that we think about when it comes to growth.
So from the entrepreneurial journey, we've talked about some great lessons learned so far. Talked about potential naming conventions at the company name versus product name.
Yeah.
We've talked about perhaps not raising money until you figure out what you want to be when you grow up, so you're not locked into a path that might or might not work. We've talked about potentially doing some consulting work for a larger company to buy time to figure out things. We've talked about some of the things that have worked on the full story side. So thinking about the entrepreneurial journey, both yours and others that you've seen, what are some other things that come to mind in terms of advice that you would give to other entrepreneurs?
Let's see. So these are the ones that immediately pop into mind. So if you are not sleeping, pay attention to the thoughts that are going on in your head in the middle of the night. I know it sounds a little bit cheesy, but oh man, I don't know if you noticed on that picture there, I've got a lot of hair. I don't have as much hair now, and it was because those years were really, really stressful. I mean, it never goes away. You're just looping over and over and over again.
And you have 2 kids and a mortgage.
2 kids and a mortgage, and well, yeah, I remember just muttering to myself, "What am I doing?" You know, somebody recommended meditate. It will help with your stress, and so I bought this little phone app, Headspace. If anybody's familiar with it, it's definitely worth it. It really is. And some little gentleman whispers in your ear and teaches you how to pay attention to your thoughts. If anybody's ever meditated, that's what it is. You're paying attention to your thoughts, which was actually pretty interesting because when you have this concept of a resting mind, thoughts just pop in your head all the time. And if this same thought is looping through your head over and over again, that's the problem to go solve. And if that, for me, that problem was, you're not building the right thing. You're not building the right thing. And it was the manifestation of that question in my head was, what can you build that will make this product work? And if that answer isn't really obvious, like if the product is done and people aren't adopting and you're thinking about what feature can I add, to us it was not a feature. It was a Control-Alt-Delete. It had to be something brand new. And that's a hard lesson to have. So that's one. Embrace the pain as directly as you can. Bruce and I and Joel used to have these meetings, we still have them every once in a while, called pain cave meetings, where we would just go in and we would just lay out all the bad stuff we could think about and just unflinchingly look at each other and be like, this isn't going very well. Why is it not going very well? You're trying to keep your energy levels up as an entrepreneur to persevere and get through that, but you know, acknowledging the pain may get you to the goal line quicker. That was another thought I had. Let me think. One other one popped in there for a second. You know, it's cliche to say don't die. I don't mean physically. I just mean it's like a product. If you can continue to live, that's good. Oh, I know one. There are many paths and there are many types of companies, and it's very easy to. I mean, I don't anymore, but you know, read TechCrunch or read whatever, and you see about companies that raise money from Kleiner or raise money from whatever. They're running this path. All paths don't have to be that way, right? As soon as you raise money, institutional money, you actually are on a particular path. So before you do that, really try to map out the path you think you're on. Do you really, really believe that this is a company that is going to be able to generate $100 million of revenue and exit, you know, this way? Do you really believe that? And if you don't try to go that path just to stay alive, right? It could create heartache for you. You can build a great, you know, $10 million a year business. There's profits involved. You don't overhire. You don't have a lot of people. So you just need to know what kind of business you're trying to build. I think that's it.
Final question before we open it up to the audience. Thinking about the Atlanta perspective. What can we do better as a startup community? What are some things that you would like to wave a magic wand and see happen in Atlanta?
So I don't know that Atlanta has found its angle yet. And what I mean by that is, you know, the valley has its angle. The valley is the valley. Everybody knows that. But I've been spending time, because we have some customers out there in Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City knows what it is, right? Salt Lake City is a fantastic inside sales organization. They've got the models, they've got the people, the schools are cranking out people. Every one of my customers, I sit down with them and they basically say, you're crazy not to have a sales office out here. And they all collectively say that. And I think if some other entrepreneur were to come to Atlanta and say, what should I do in Atlanta? I would say, Atlanta's awesome. Like, it's a great place to live, it's a good lifestyle, but I don't know that I'd be able to say that here's the skill set that Atlanta is going to hone for you and you're going to be able to just get up and going. I think that I think that the elements of that are there. I don't know how we get everybody on the same page with that. I would love for Atlanta, for example, to say, we are the computer science place of the world, as an example, right? We are the data analytics place of the world. And here's why. Georgia Tech is doing this, these 3 companies are doing this, these 3 organizations are doing this. I just think that finding that soul would be important.
Awesome. Let's give Scott a round of applause. And then we have time for a few questions. Who wants to kick us off?
Thanks, Scott. Thanks for the partial story.
Thank you.
So I noticed on your website, I haven't used your product, I'm sold on it.
It's a shame, you absolutely should.
I will. You have a free solution, a pro solution, and an enterprise.
Yes.
Tell us about the journey of figuring out freemium to premium.
Yeah.
And how did you figure about it? What are the best practices? What did you do wrong? All that.
That is a great question. I will tell you that I spent an hour and a half today in a pricing reconfiguration meeting because we still don't feel like we have it right. I think that no one ever feels like pricing is right. I go back to if you're selling to businesses, I can't say I know anything about consumers, selling to consumers, B2C stuff, but if you're selling to other businesses, don't start free, in my opinion. Because even if you quickly go back to adding freemium, right? Start by understanding the soul of the business by making sure that customers will use it, find enough value to give you some non-zero amount of money. I don't even know if it's $10, that might be fine, but something better than free. We got such bad signal with Homebase because I did the same thing. I went around with a pitch deck and I would talk to people and I'd be like, here's the set of problems. Is this a set of problems for you? Oh yeah, this is a set of problems. Would you use this product if we launch it? Yeah, we'd absolutely use it. Totally different from, would you buy this product? So when did we decide to launch free? I think we had been in the market for a full year and change. And we launched the free version for 2 reasons. One, we had seen great success with word of mouth. And so we wanted to just goose the word of mouth. And we knew where the snap lines of paying customers and not paying customers were. We sort of had a sense who our influencers were, which is who we wanted to drive additional word of mouth. And they were small startups that we were that small startup for a long. We didn't have enough money to pay. And so as almost a gesture of goodwill, we wanted to give it back to them. The other reason that we did it is because the mission of the business is to make the web better, right? Every one of you are users of the web. You try to buy things at times. It is horribly frustrating. And so by giving full story away, we think that will just kind of do our little part in that regard. As we have evolved the business, especially as we have layered on a sales team in the last year, that pressure that we experienced with Derek is back again, right? And I can't tell you, what we have seen is that close rates are higher, win rates, close rates are higher when you get a salesperson involved. Retention rates are higher when you get a salesperson involved. ACV is higher when you get a salesperson involved. That doesn't change the fact that the soul of our company is still very much about building products and wanting thousands and thousands of people to use it. So we're really going through a lot of thought on how do we draw those snap lines yet again, where there's a group of people that don't ever want to talk to a salesperson, right? Many of you don't ever want to talk to a salesperson, and we get that. We want you to be able to buy the product on your own without that. But we also want a good ACV, and we want you to have a good experience. And it's true, it took us a while to realize this, but a salesperson is really, really helpful in helping you understand all the nuances of the product. In the earliest days of the product, it didn't do much. It was pretty simple. It was like, record the thing, hit play, there's your product. You don't need much training. We've got lots of long tail features now that a sales rep can get in there and help them understand it. That's going to be better retention. So it's a meandering question. We don't feel like we have it on lock yet, but we hope to one day.
Awesome. Next question.
Yeah, great. First, I've been a user twice of FullStory. We had it at one company, got acquired, took the other.
Nice. That's great. That's great. See, it happens.
Great. FullStory seems like a classic, hindsight is 20/20 story. Like you look, it's like, duh, it makes sense, right? At what point in that journey that you described, which was long, did it click for you when you said we got it?
Well, so two clarification points now. One is there was no aha moment. This is the idea. I wish I could say that there was just a light bulb, but it was a slow drip of knowing that home base wasn't quite right, and then thinking what could be right. It was a little bit freeing to say, we're not thinking about pivoting the current product by adding a couple features, by saying, Rob Beard, who is out in Social Circle, Georgia, and he's a venture partner for, gosh, I don't remember who's, Sequoia, or Benchmark. And somehow we got connected with this guy. So Bruce and I drove out to Social Circle, and you kind of have to meet Rob to know, but he's very much, he's an imposing figure. He's like a cowboy. He lives on, his office is on a farm. He is super savvy. And we took him through the home base deck, and he looked at us and he was like, I can kind of see it. But what's the invention, guys? And that question really just echoed in our ears for a long time. It wasn't really, like what we were building with Homebase was not an invention. It was just sort of some workflow on some existing stuff. FullStory, when we went out to build that, we were like, we need to do something that's different and hard, and we're not absolutely sure it can be done, but we've got this great team. Let's go try something hard. Let's try to capture all of the data and put it in an index. Yeah, meandering, but that's the answer.
Question in the back? Or right here, Jeff?
Sure. Hey Scott, I have an agency called 352. We've got about 20 of our clients as FullStory users, so I absolutely love the product.
Thank you.
The biggest thing that we like about it is when when a customer reports a bug or an issue, and one of our developers' response is, "Oh, that's not possible," which is clearly, we say, "Let's go watch the videotape and see if it is possible." And 99 times out of 100, the developer is stunned as they go, "Well, I don't know how that possibly happens." And, the error is fixed 5 minutes later. My question for you, I know you guys are hiring like crazy this year. I've heard with the new funding, you guys are almost like doubling in size. What's that process been like, and how have you had to kind of change your people ops in order to accommodate all the new hires?
It's a great, first of all, thank you very much for being a customer. I appreciate it. That use case you mentioned, that may have been the aha moment. By the way, it was Springbot in Atlanta. And Joe talked about taking FullStory to one of his Russian engineers, and the engineer had this great accent, and Joe would do the accent and with that use case. So for starters, we hired a fantastic head of people ops, and not surprisingly, she was an ex-Google person, and it's really easy to think of HR, and just, this is people that are doing the benefits over there, and if somebody needs to, it's not like that. It's crazy that for most SaaS companies, our biggest asset are our people, and those people need to operate with each other, and they need to be taken care of, and all of those things. And so people operations is the right phrase for that. And so Gabby came in, and that's the head of people's ops for us, and just really helped us think strategically and structurally about how to organize the company. And we're still iterating through that, but starting to hire more clear practices is what we would call them. So we did not have a product manager in the organization until about 2 months ago, and now we have a product management practice. We just hired our first product marketer, and so adding those functions where, again, it was something that we just used to, everyone in the organization used to just chip in and do those things. We're now starting to form these things where people can focus on these things day in and day out. It's great to have people there doing that. Coordinating those people across each other is something that I think we're still starting to work on. And then the only other thing I'd add in is, when we're smaller, everybody feels like it's part of a family. We have our weekly all-hands meeting, and we have all of these kind of quirky processes that were easy when you were small. But as you get bigger, you don't want to lose the magic of that, but you want to keep the processes in place. And so trying to figure out how to iterate an OKR cycle is something where when it's a team of 30, it's easy to run OKRs. When it's a team of 100, it's different. You have to structure it in a different way.
Hey Scott, I love that you brought up, taking the company to the next level. So the wannabe IPO company, or whatever, however you said that.
Yeah, wannabe.
Yeah, right. And so I'd love to know specifically, what are some things that you're doing, and some of maybe your co-founders, your executive team are doing to take it up to that level, and hoping that the team follows and sees that, and just be curious to learn more.
Well, it starts at the highest level. So we try to treat our board as if it were the conference call that you would do if you were a wannabe public company. That means you're getting your metrics and your KPIs in order, and you've just got a lock on all of the assumptions that drive all of those things. And that does not happen overnight by a long shot. So we've got a really strong head of finance that is helping drive some of those. We've started to bring in operations people within each organizations to drive metrics back up. That's been one. There's a level of thinking about the future that we haven't really had in the past. At the beginning of 17, January 1, 17, you're thinking about February 17. And now we're thinking a bit further out in terms of our modeling and the pieces that you have to put on the chessboard in order to try to track to a $100 million company. Anecdote. I was in Australia last week for a conference, and where in the past I would have gone to that conference to go to a trade show and meet some customers and do some things, I went down there now and I thought about, okay, what would it look like for Full Story Australia? When would that happen? How would we hire? When would we do that? Finance person, let's go ahead and start to put that plan together so we know when we want to snap and put that in place. Things like that.
Awesome. Let's give Scott a round of applause.
That's right.
Wonderful. Can we be around for a little bit?
Yeah, I'll be around for a little bit. Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And coming up, we've got the Simply SaaS Social Hour, which is going to be Tuesday, June 5th. And then also June 27th, we have a meetup with Stefan, that will be a early morning. But thank you all for coming out for the SaaS Forum. We appreciate everyone's time and also appreciate the expertise up on stage. Thanks so much. And we got happy hour.